And we're recording. Hello, everybody. My name's Simon Cantor, also known as Casca Niobe on Twitter. You'll see the Twitter handle at the top of the screen there. And this is the Benefactor, session 1 of our new campaign that we're going to be broadcasting out on Twitch under Chaotic Neutral Games. I'm going to introduce you to the players now, and they're going to say a little something about their characters, and then we're going to go straight into session 1. Rodrigo.
You muted, friend.
Hi. I'm Rodrigo. I'm playing Aiden Canelm, the Order of the Ghost Slayer Human Blood Hunter. Yeah.
And Felicia.
Hello. I'm playing Glory, a tiefling sorceress with dragon ancestry.
Nick. It all seems.
Hi, I'm Nick. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you cut out again, and I was just going to go.
No problem. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm playing Farewell Barebones, the Water Genasi Cleric of the Grave.
Kate.
And I'm Kate Madison. I'm playing Kora Yosinel, a halfling warlock of the Fae.
And finally, Corinne. Corinne, can you hear us?
I'm Corinne, and I'm sorry, I messed up with Discord. I'm Corinne, and I'm playing Eclipse, a arcane trickster rogue.
Who is also a tabaxi. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go into the session straight away. It's morning in the city of Ostergald, in South Vardencourt, in this world that you're playing in, Illyria. South Vardencourt used to be the Vardencourt Empire, but now it's just a shell of the empire it once was. Split by civil war, meaning that North Vardencourt is now controlled by a synod of dwarves and warforged. The south, the original lands from where the Vardencourt family came from, is a puffed up empire that's just thinking of older days, their victory days, run by people who have titles but no longer power or wealth. Ostergald, the city that you're in, is an exception to this. Run by a fierce archduke, Duke Edmund, the city finds itself in a privileged position and being courted on a daily basis by a lot of privileged people who wish to remain that way. Edmund Ostermark III is in control of 3 gold mines. They're effectively the Lannisters of this empire. And the city, as a result, is a popular place to be. Overpopulated, but still very, very capable in terms of its output, in terms of industry and mercantile power. You find yourselves there. Some of you have been there all your life. For example, Kora has been there since she was little. Others have travelled there under many circumstances that I'm sure we'll learn throughout the campaign. This is a city that never sleeps, not in a romantic way like New York, but in the fact that the industry there goes on and on and on. Factories and a form of industrial revolution have hit the city, and with it, greater production, greater hardship, as people are working themselves to the bone. We start off in the shanty town on the outside of Ostergald, outside of the city walls. Freetown was once given to war veterans to make homes, but quickly grew and grew as these people had families and started using the grants of land that they had. The land got divided, and soon buildings were pressed up against each other, and it just became a great hive of activity. 3 of you, Farewell, Kora, and Aiden, all live there at the moment, and it's a generally pleasant place. There's a lot of hardship there. You have to work hard to keep a roof over your head and to stay fed. but there's a good sense of community there. You can hear as knockers are going from door to door. These guys have got long sticks. They normally had some sort of night shift that they will have finished. And they're going to be paid a few extra coppers to make sure that people get up on time. And you can hear them going from place to place. And they try to be quite chipper individuals. So you can hear one going past saying, tap, tap, tap. Come on, Ted, out of bed. Tap, tap, tap. Come on, Sally, your cart's in the alley. Tap, tap, tap. Come on, Lorellian. Screw it, just get up. As he tries to struggle to make a rhyme with a complicated elven name. This is towards the end of this particular tapper's round, and he's off to bed. And just as he starts packing up this 3-part cane, one of the doors bursts open, and you hear, "Bless you, love, have a good sleep." And he's like, "Thank you, Sally," and heads off down the road. The reason why I mentioned this one particular scene is that both Kora and Farewell hear it. Farewell, you're in the small amount of hovels that are next to the Raven Queen Temple in Freetown. And Kora, you're in slightly better housing in a place called the Warren, a place that the leader of Freetown, Robar Fathram, himself resides in. It's kind of almost a tenement building, and it's kind of the better accommodation that you can find there. Your connections in Freetown meaning that you've been able to be in relative comfort compared to a lot of people in Freetown. You wake up, get ready for the appointment that you have today, and set out into the streets with the city bustling around you. The same thing goes for Eclipse and Glory, except you start off in the city. Glory, thanks to your connections coming off the ship, you have got a reasonable, small, but reasonable room in the merchant quarter of the city. At this point, I'll bring up the map and show you where you are.
Was this me or Felicia you're talking about?
Felicia, so Glory is
Yeah.
currently living in the
Merchant quarters.
So you can see the merchant's quarter is the green section at the bottom of the city in the south. Freetown is to the left.
Do you want to bring our screen to it, please? Because we're currently on.
You should be
the
going.
screen.
Yeah, you should be switching to the city map now.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you'll notice that you are in the Glory. You're in the south in the merchant's quarter, and Aiden, Kora, and Farewell are to the left in Freetown. We can ping it here. And Eclipse, you are currently in between the Liberty Quarter, that's on the red district on the right-hand side, which is kind of a slum, and the Merchant Quarter. So you're kind of equidistant between the two. You live around the university, which is number 5 on the map. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I guess.
You get up and get out into the streets. The 2 large gates that go into Freetown from the city have been opened, and you join the huge herds of people that are walking into and out of the city, and in the case of Glory and Eclipse, down the main roads. You're heading towards the Royal Quarter. That's in the top right-hand corner in purple, where the more well-to-do buildings are. You've been given the address. 1 or 2 of you may have actually gone up and checked to make sure that address was correct, because you're going to the home of Renata Green. Renata Green is a very influential person in the city. Some people, like Robar Fathram, the person that I mentioned before, have a particular section that they're influential in. So he is Freetown. The thing with Renata Green is that she has holdings and businesses throughout the city. So she has little bits that just pop up here and there. So instead of having an area, a district that she is in control of, she has a symbol. And it's a symbol of a winged snake in black on a green background, and it's normally presented in a disc. If that's placed on a business or a building or a street, so if it's on a street sign, it means the entire street is under her protection. Not many people have seen Renata Green. She's a famous recluse, but there are people who work for her who, again, wear the symbol on a belt or on a piece of armor, and they represent her throughout the city. The things that you know about her organization is they're very well paid, very well provisioned, and this is why it's such a break for each one of you guys. You start walking through the city and notice that every other block has this symbol throughout the city, and you do get a few people nodding to you as you go past as well, almost as if they know where you're going. And again, they've got this green disc with this black-winged serpent on the crest. You find yourself ushered into a beautiful entrance hall, up a set of stairs, and into a waiting room where you see each other. So you see Aiden, who is a gaunt, pale figure with neatly trussed back black hair. You see Glory, a tiefling who, and apologies to Felicia, I haven't brought up your art on Roll20 yet, who is this this scarlet-skinned, actually it's darker than scarlet, isn't it? This reddish-skinned tiefling with strange small black scales that appear every so often over her body. Farewell Barebones, who is a bluish green-skinned cleric with kind of salt and pepper hair. Kora, who is a halfling. And then Eclipse, who is a silver-furred tabaxi. The first thing you guys notice is that in this room, everything is, even though it's just a waiting room for an audience, everything is very expensive. You start to notice, the three of you from Freetown, that the coasters on the table could probably feed a family for a couple of weeks. The candlestick that is in the middle of the table, at the moment unlit, would be able to feed probably a whole block for a week. The candles inside, probably a family for a couple of days. Everything around you is of the very best quality. Whether this has been set down to impress you or intimidate you, you don't know. But you're suddenly aware of the wealth difference in the city. People could work for weeks and weeks and weeks and still not be able to even get into the store or the vendor that probably sells these items. And
would we say that this is quite ostentatious, or is this actually real, classy, proper money? Sort of in this style, like this person's had money, they know money, they are money, rather than somebody that's recently come into money and is trying to show off.
No, that's a good question. I would say do a history check for me.
Sure. First roll of the night.
No
2.
pressure.
That's not good. That's a 9.
Okay, a 9. I mean, all you're doing is appraising, common domestic items. So yeah, from what you can see, this stuff looks legit to you. I mean, it looks like the real deal. A mixture of things that were probably always in this house, and then other things bought to complement it. So there's a certain level of control and of style. So some of you guys know each other. So Farewell and Kora have met. You've probably both seen Aiden around. Eclipse and Aiden have probably rubbed shoulders in their various circles. The only one who probably hasn't met you all before is Glory, who, okay, she's not straight off the ship. She's been in Ostergald at least a year. But the circles that she would operate in aren't usually the ones the rest of you would. So she's fairly new. Yeah, and you realize looking around that you're all there for the same meeting.
Kora, You didn't tell me that there was going to be more than just you and me here.
Well, I didn't really know. But I guess she's looking for more than just us. Hi.
Hello,
And
friends.
Farewell just sort of very awkwardly and stiffly, sort of almost hiding behind the halfling waves.
Eclipse gives them a deep bow and says, "Hello, friends. It's nice to meet you here. I haven't seen you around before. What's your names?"
I'm Kora.
Farewell, Barebones.
Oh, very pretty names. My name is Eclipse of the Moon, but you may call me Eclipse. I am very glad to meet you all. What are your names, Miss Tiefling and human?
Well, you can see Glory giving the most charming smile she can muster, which also happens to have a lot of teeth. Why, hello there, darling. My name is Glory. Are we all here to meet Miss Green?
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, we're looking for work.
Yes, Miss Green has been very kind and offered me, and I think she has offered you the same, a contract under her name, which I've heard is very lucrative.
Very much so.
Yeah, I think so. Guess there's important jobs to do.
So, you friend there, you're the one who told us her name. Who may you be?
Do I have to?
It kind of
Uh,
helps.
I
Mm.
guess
By the
not,
way,
friend.
DM, I am very uncomfortable. Like Aiden's very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Don't worry, I get that. I'm waiting for you guys to hit certain conversational triggers, which you haven't at the moment. But if you don't by the time the person who's about to knock on the door knocks on the door, then you guys will be spared certain conversations.
No, yeah, I just my name is Aiden, and I just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I just...
You just, yeah.
Eclipse kind of looks at Aiden and goes like, "Oh." It turns back to Glory, who seems to be infinitely more interesting.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a good look at Aiden, and I'm gonna ask the DM. Does his appearance look familiar? Because I imagine that perhaps there would be a flutter, maybe in Freehold, about individuals that could come, especially in the presence of the sort of Temple of the Raven Queen, that perhaps might have preceded him.
I feel we'd have
Yeah.
at least seen him around.
Oh yeah, you've definitely seen him around, but
Rider in the corner of the tavern, you know.
yeah,
The
you've
hooded
definitely
figure
seen him
just-
around, and you're there thinking, oh, so it's that guy. But what I would like, and I'll allow this from Farewell, and go on, I'll allow Kora to have a role as well. Give me a religion check.
Oh, I know that one. I can do that.
I know
I
religion.
don't think my
'cause I'm a
religion is
cleric.
very good.
Religion. That is 17.
Yeah,
Ooh,
absolutely.
very bad.
Yeah,
Dickens.
so you know about the fact that there are some families and some orders as well. So orders kind of knightly rather than religious that will undertake certain processes to be able to fight and gain power against certain entities. You can see that this guy now up close has, you can see it in the skin, you can see the scars, you can see the eyes. Although Aiden, I should imagine, is trying not to look you directly in the eye because it gives a lot away. And
Yeah, feelings mutual.
Yeah, and
Definitely trying not to look him in the eye either, which
Yeah.
is really difficult when you're trying to spoke somebody out.
he's undergone a type of rite. So Aiden has undergone a type of rite, and you know that these rites tend to be quite dangerous. Unless you've gone through and done, the whole wizardly route, or you're born into it like a sorcerer, or you end up getting some sort of patron like a warlock. The type of power that he's got and the kind of sickness that he seems to have, although he doesn't feel sick, it's just the outward appearance, comes from a type of ritual that you can undertake that is a form of biomancy. Okay, and this type of biomancy normally involves either some sort of near-death ritual or imbibing in some sort of alchemic compound that's incredibly dangerous, and it's either applied over a long period of time or it's applied during a ritual in which, again, it's a near-death experience. And yeah, he's there is no word blood hunter in Illyria, but we'll use it here. Blood hunters tend to just be these edgy, powerful people that can come from any walk of life. I mean, you can, as long as you survive, you can wake up one morning and just be a swine herder, and then by the end of the day, you could be wielding ridiculous amounts of power and be training to be able to take down lycanthropes. So yeah,
So you said he looks. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the pale skin, the slight discoloration in the veins, most of all the eyes. You're trying not to, as you said, you're trying not to focus too much on the eyes because you'll effectively be, it's almost like going up to a horse and lifting up the tail. So you're trying not to do that, obviously. But yeah, you know that he's undergone one of these processes.
During that entire time, Aiden's just doing, that the awkward tugging of the collar type
Yeah.
deal, like
Yeah.
I think
What do I do?
I think for Farewell on sort of noticing the skin discoloration and the veins, and you said he sort of almost has a sickly appearance. That medical part of him is now fascinated, and he's actually, without even realizing it, just inching closer and closer and closer to Aiden, just so he can just try and just study it and just try and understand if he's actually not well at all and as such actually needs medical intervention, or he's some sort of fascinating new sort of individual that's got quite some immunities and he wants to write about it. Not that anybody ever reads his writing, but of course he needs that. So you piqued his curiosity, and that's sort of overcoming his initial sort of withdrawnness and his awkwardness.
Maybe there's like an unlikely fun trip happening here.
He is getting close and potentially quite close.
Kora is looking at this and is going to grab Farewell by the arm, just like subtly, but kind of in a give it a moment, like just maybe give some space kind of thing, just that sort of look.
So yeah, when you start to see Farewell,
I was doing it again, wasn't I?
Yeah.
DM, do I have to make a roll so Aiden doesn't just start screaming?
No, I'd say what probably happened is that Farewell started doing that whole kind of shifting in his seat kind of thing, as if the cushion is coming loose or something. And then every time he does that kind of little shuffle, he's an inch closer to you, then another inch closer to you. He gets about 2 inches before Kora just puts her hand lightly on his arm and goes, no.
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 It's like, maybe no.
But Farewell, this does actually answer a question. Okay, so
finding this quite amusing though, just watching it.
Yeah. So
Did you say so?
Farewell, this does actually this solves a mystery for you, Farewell, and that is you've seen Aiden go and speak to somebody who's very close to you, and that is Dusk Elmheart, a tiefling priestess of the Raven Queen. Aiden has gone and spoken to her a few times, and you have no idea why. You haven't gone up and asked Dusk, but it's clear that he's not a paladin. He's not a cleric, and just the sense of purpose by which Aiden has walked up to her, in in the temple of the Raven Queen, it's not been like a parishioner. You've known straight away it's not been as a parishioner. He's walked up with purpose. And you're there thinking, okay, if he's one of them, chances are he hunts something that Dusk hunts as well. And you know that clerics, especially being that Dusk is the archpriestess of the Raven Queen in Ostergald, one of the things that they do hunt is the undead. Okay? Or at least they put them back into death, to speak of
I'm
awesome.
going to... you'll watch Farewell reach down, and just sort of on his sort of right thigh, you can see there's quite a big book that's bound together with several leather clasps. And in the center where it all binds together is a sort of large onyx raven head, which looks, you can see if you look closely, parts of it have been rubbed smooth. And he's just going to clip that open, pull out his book, grab something like a pencil or whatever it is, I'm not quite sure what the technology is in this world, and just start furiously scribbling away.
Sure.
There are notes to be made here. He'll do that sort of like thing at school where he sort of leans over to Kora where he's wrote something and shows her what he's writing, and just making sure that like she understands it. And of course he's probably getting the same look that she's giving me now, which is, what are you doing? You're embarrassing me. Stop it.
So yeah, so that
Well, I guess at least you've calmed down a bit.
I take out a piece of silver and I just start fiddling it with it. You know, like having it like run across the knuckles, things like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying super hard to like not let the social anxiety set in.
Aiden, do a dex check with disadvantage, please.
Oh, I love this. Let me see.
Check or save?
No, it's a check.
8.
Yeah, you at first you guys are really, really impressed by how deftly this silver piece is just flicking across his knuckles, then disappearing into his palm, and then suddenly appearing on the other side, and then going across the knuckles again, and then backwards and forwards, and ding, 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 ding on the floor. There's this awkward silence as Aiden kind of gets up, walks over, picks it up, takes it back to the seat with him. And at that point...
What you don't hear is him just silently cursing while he goes to pick it up.
I was gonna say, before you pick it up, Eclipse like flicks her hand, and the coin just floats to you instead with Arcane Trickster's mage hand.
Sure.
You
However,
seem to have dropped
just
it
after you
again.
sit down with the coin, there's a and a gnome who is dressed in kind of a housekeeper's uniform is standing at the doorway.
Hello.
Hi.
You can come through now if that's if you're all ready.
Of course.
That
I
was
just
big
start
name.
rapidly nodding.
Okay, come this way then, please. And this, you think this gnome is probably a couple of 100 years old, and she arthritically starts walking down the corridor towards a large set of double oak doors, and it's almost painful because the arthritic speed at which she's walking. You all start kind of eagerly walking towards her, and then you all have to kind of hang a stop, and then you realize you're all too close to each other.
In an MMO, you're escorting, but they're walking too slow for you to run, and you just kind of like have to like keep stopping.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I was going to say, as we get to the door, Farrell's going to stop for a second, place his hand back on that raven sort of clasp, and then another one on his chest, and just sort of remembering the pep talk that he got probably earlier from Kora, and just went, Raven Queen, grant me guidance. And he's going to cast guidance on himself.
Aww.
absolutely.
Oh,
The doors
As
open,
he
the
needs this job.
the doors open, and the room beyond is it basically blows the previous room to bits in terms of quality and craftsmanship. There's wooden cornicing all over the place. Almost every square inch is covered in books, to the point where the bookshelves then have to jut out to be able to accommodate yet more books. At the end of the room, in a small tuck, again surrounded by yet more bookshelves. You think they're probably the more favoured ones, but looking out to the window, so that you can see the garden, which is actually a centre courtyard. So this building is actually a square, and the inside is a small and very floral courtyard. Is this beautiful, large, ornate desk, and you can see what seems to be a spell book on a lectern. A small lectern that is on this vast desk. However, nobody sat at the large leather chair that is behind this desk. Instead, sat at a small clerk's desk, a little desk that can be picked up and stowed away under one of the other tabletops, is a woman, probably in her mid to late 20s. She has ice white hair, slightly pale skin, but looking healthier than Aiden. She seems to have a very slight amount of makeup on, or at least that's the illusion. You think maybe it takes quite a lot of effort to look that little made up, and she's got this kind of very pale, kind of pink lipstick on, and she's got something to accentuate the eyebrows and the eyelashes. But other than that, it seems to all be a kind of very natural and almost fey beauty. But she seems to be human. She's very slim, very gaunt. Again, a little like Aiden in that regard. And she's wearing an almost piper's jacket with silver-edged piping. The jacket itself is black, and she's wearing black trousers and formidable but very high-quality black boots. She's sat at a desk, and she's currently scrawling using a fountain pen, which answers your previous question. There are fountain pens in the city. You probably don't use one Farewell because of the cost, but fountain pens, quills are still being used, obviously, and then there are pencils and things as well. You just won't find a Bic anywhere. So
I imagine Farewell has a pencil.
yeah, it's an easy way, especially if you're one of nature's scrawlers. A pencil is usually your thing. And yeah, she's just calmly scritching away into what appears to be some sort of financial ledger. And she seems to almost ignore you as you get taken to a set of seats that are next to the fire. The fire isn't roaring at the moment. It is the morning, so you think that it's maybe just kind of working off the embers. And as you sit down, the gnome kind of looks at you encouragingly and kind of purses her lips and puts a finger to her lips as if to say quiet, and then kind of gives a curt little bow and toddles off back out the double doors. It doesn't take long for the person sat at the clerk's desk to stop, and as she's putting away her ledger, I want you guys to quickly make a cold read of the room. I mean, this is a very, very strange environment for you guys. Not many of you have been here. There's one of you who's been in things that are similar. But give me I'll allow an insight check or a perception check.
I'll do insight.
Or a check of your choice that you think might be relevant.
Sorry, all of us?
Yeah, you can each do it. I'll go onto each of you one at a time. It can be insight, perception. You asked about investigation, Kate. Absolutely. You can do any check you like if you think it's relevant. However, I'll decide how relevant it actually is, and you can, and then you'll get the information.
16 on insight or perception.
15. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So
60.
Okay,
That's what she
so
said.
I
6.
got 19 for insight.
Okay,
And I got 19 for perception.
okay.
I got a 9 for investigation. Nothing.
9.
9.
Mine's pretty rubbish. I rolled an 8, so my perception, my investigation is a +2. My perception is a +3. I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay,
So,
well, decide which
11.
one that
No,
you're...
wait, that's wrong. I always look at persuasion. Hold on, perception. No, it's still +3.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're persuading your eyes to see better.
Yeah.
Mm.
So 11, 10 or 11.
Okay,
Pretty rubbish
okay,
on
right.
either.
So, first of all, the three of you who had very similar scores, and that's Glory, Farewell, and Aiden, you do notice a few things. Not a huge amount, but you do notice that a lot of the books seem to be of an arcane nature. The ones that aren't of an arcane nature are history tomes. Okay, they are history of city-states and of cultures and of lost cultures as well. The arcane books tend to be varied, the type of thing that you'd find in any arcane practitioner's study. You know that arcane practitioners, especially wizards, are very common in the higher classes. They're less common in the lower classes, and those who are, for example, wizards that are found in Freetown, tend to bumble out their own kind of loosey-goosey way of casting those spells, rather than having a formal education. The other thing that you notice is that the fireplace, very interestingly, I said it's burning on embers now, even though it's the morning. That's usually the case in hovels where they will usually put a stone over the embers to make sure it doesn't set fire to anything. And you've just got a nice hot, warm stone that you can use. You put it up the next day, and you find some embers that you can use to start the fire the next day. This is different. These are the embers of a fire that's been burning full pelt all night. So whoever was here, or there's a number of different chairs, a lot of people can study here at once. Whoever was here, whether it be one person or many, they were studying throughout the night. Okay? So, I think that's pretty much everything I can give you based on what you guys chose.
I
Yeah.
just want...
Question.
Yeah, go.
Sorry.
Go on, Rodrigo.
I wanted to ask, how did we get this invitation? Was it a letter, or did someone come over to where we were staying at? I don't know if you clarify this or not.
You were approached in various different ways, and this can be something that
Okay.
you guys choose. So many of you have been working throughout the city to do various things to be noticed. Particularly Glory and Eclipse have both been in the city making a name for themselves. What reputation is attached to that name is variable, but the but yeah, you've been making a name for yourself. So some of you were approached by your contacts, the people you were working with or for, and being told in no uncertain terms that you don't turn down this this invitation, and you'd be stupid to anyway. For Farewell, it was by letter, so that was just sent to the temple. And Kora, he was actually approached by somebody. They knocked on the door of her dwelling, and yeah, that's basically what happened there, which is a little freaky. I'm not going to lie, Kora, you're probably a little freaked out about this situation. And once you had it confirmed with Farewell that he was going as well, you kind of thought, okay, and that kind of explained most of it. But that personal touch of knocking on your door, that was a little freaky.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I think Kora is, so if that happened, she definitely was freaked out at the time. Then she started thinking that actually it could be beneficial. But right now, standing in this room, her heart rate has suddenly gone up quite a lot, and she is slightly zoned out, which helps with the whole perception being a bit rubbish. But she's not really paying attention in a funny kind of way, because she's kind of flashing back a little.
Sure. So
do I notice this? Because I appreciate, like most people, Farewell will be very much in awe. This is probably the most wealth he's ever seen in his whole life. But equally, sort of, Kora is his friend. So would he be aware?
Yeah. I would say he'd be aware, and you're right. You're having trouble actually figuring out how expensive some of the carvings and some of the little bits of accoutrement that's just lying about the place would be. Glory could probably tell you exactly how much those things cost. Well, how much those things cost from back home, at least. And she's probably seen one or two items that are better than what's sat around here. But even she has to admit that the overall wealth that you're seeing in this room, you've not seen in one room anywhere else. And that's kind of intimidating to you as well, Glory.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just going to whisper.
Is that overall or just like in this region of the world?
No, even back home. It tells you that you're in the right place, put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goody.
I'm just going to whisper, just lean down to Kora, and just sort of, Kora, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm fine. This is fine.
We can go if you need to.
Very expensive.
I'm not sure that we can, and I think this is a good idea. I think.
Okay.
The gaunt female figure stands up with a half smile on her face, and you have a feeling that she always wears this kind of strange political half smile. It seems very well practiced. And as she gets up, she walks past a harp, and just idly, wistfully, her hand reaches out and just kind of lightly glides over the strings, and the harp starts to play itself in this lovely little tune. And you're there just saying, well, that's a crazy enchantment. And for those of you who are arcane practitioners, Glory, for one, and
Me too, actually.
Yep, and actually, Eclipse as well. You know that
I can do magics.
this is a hideously expensive enchantment, and the kind of slight amount of intimidation that you had before Glory kind of amplifies by the fact that you know that your patron would probably have no problem killing a small building of people to just get that harp.
Yeah.
So,
Very neat.
the figure walks up to you and says, "Hello, everyone. I am Olivia Storm, Miss Green's personal assistant. I'm sorry that she can't be here to welcome you herself, but even though your reputation precedes you, we believe a little bit of a trial, a test, is in order. And, well, let's just say you would need to earn the right to meet your new potential
What type
patron.
of trial are we talking here?
A job, just like any that you've probably had before, and one that is required to be performed with a certain amount of decorum and class."
So, nobody's?
Sorry.
I just like to mention that at this point, the lorry is slightly zoned out because there is a really pretty lady standing in front of her. And this is a really nice room and there's a really nice lady, and
It's a really expensive harp that's playing really nice music.
Yeah.
Everything is just really nice and pretty.
Yeah. This is like the perfect romantic setting, you know?
Yeah,
Except,
but
with
there's
several
candlelight
people.
and a slight dappled and coloured sunlight coming through the windows, because, as I say, the blossoms outside you haven't seen anywhere else in the city apart from the ornamental gardens that you find in the city. So this is private. This is something that's just for the occupants of this house. And yet she has got an unearthly beauty to her. There seems to be a kind of diplomatic detachment to her behavior, but also a very definite, almost courtly, flirtatious style. How she did the whole thing of gliding past the harp and setting the scene, and then walking straight up to you, and kind of as she's standing there now, she's standing almost at military at ease. Her legs slightly apart, her hands clasped behind her back, almost like she has a military bearing, but also, as I say, that gentle half smile, looking at you all in the eye, whether you like it or not, and she's just taking you in. Just you notice that she's just completely assessing each of you. She's doing insight checks.
Did she introduce herself?
Yes, she introduced herself as Olivia Storm.
Oh. Well, hello, Mrs. Storm. Miss Storm, I'm Eclipse. I do believe you've heard of us. You've been expecting us, yes?
Well, I sent the invites, both the personal ones and the written ones. So, yes, I am aware of who you are and why you're here. You're here today to speak to me.
My invitation spoke of Miss Green, not of you.
Well, yes, of course, I am Miss Green's representative in this case. And if you do well, you may meet her in person.
I'm Glory. Hi.
I'm aware of who you are, Miss Tezcatlipoca.
I just kind of look at Glory like, where did that come from anyway?
And may I say, what a pleasant surprise, unexpected though it is, to have someone from your esteemed family here and asking for a humble position in our organization.
Are you from are you from a noble family, Miss Glory?
You could say that. We're pretty well known back home.
I would describe them as an established family.
Yeah.
So, here's the offer. If you
on,
manage to
sorry.
pass this very simple trial that requires just a modicum of decorum, social interaction, and prowess in other skills, you will be brought formally into the Green Organization. You will be given lodgings here in the city and access to equipment and resources that will allow you to perform further jobs, to use the vernacular, for the organization. You will be considered specialists, as you have been sold, and you will, well, frankly, won't want for anything ever again. How does that sound?
Miss Storm, I think it's pretty obvious that we're going to take your offer. I have one request when it comes to reward and pay and that sort of thing. It might seem a little strange.
Not at all. Go ahead.
I'll hand her a slip of paper. My pay and anything that I get is to be paid there. Thank you.
Of course. We will make sure that the appropriate funds are placed in the appropriate accounts. So, any questions as to the potential terms of your employment should you succeed?
Yeah, I usually have my contracts are usually I usually negotiate contracts. I have a few hard rules, Miss Storm, and they are no killing children, no harm to children in general. It's just normal, pretty standard, I think. Other than that, no torture, and that's pretty much it. I'm open for everything else. but no torture and no killing children, if that's all right.
I think this should be answered by my patron's reputation rather than anything else. You did not need to, as much as I value you for having a moral code, let's just say you're here for business. And those things are, well, how on earth could those things be of business? She looks at you with a very
course.
sharp look.
You and Miss Green's reputation precedes you, Miss Storm. I am sure we can come to an agreement.
I'm sure.
I have a few questions. So, if we're successful and we join the Green organization, will the pay be per job? Will it be a set amount? What kind of jobs will you be asking us to do, and how often?
A very good question, and one that I was expecting to hear. So, in answer to your question, you will never have to pay for room and board ever again. Once we give you your lodgings, your place of residence, it may improve as you go up within the organization, but you'll never have to pay for it. It's simply just laid on for you. The same is true of food. So whether you're given a house with a housekeeper, much like Magda, who showed you in, or if you are given a certain list of taverns that you can go to and simply get food for free, they will be covered all in the costs. You will eat very well, and you will never have to worry about warmth or shelter. On top of that, yes, payment is by the job. Now, if you end up being part of the organization who has a regular job, a regular post, as many people do within the organization, you'll be paid on a weekly basis. You, on the other hand, will be given a retainer for every week that you are not given a contract, and you'll be paid handsomely for the contracts that you do perform based on the success of that contract. So think of it as being given your lifestyle on trust, and then a bit of fun money if we don't give you a contract, and then a bonus if you do.
So where would this lodging be, or do we know?
They would be nearby, not exactly in the royal quarter, but on the perimeters of the royal quarter. I believe we've started sourcing somewhere that's between the royal quarter and the merchants' quarter, in the center of the city, so that you can respond from wherever you are to all parts of the city in a reasonable timescale.
And what do we have to do now? I mean, you talked about a trial, but you really haven't specified what the trial is yet.
Ah, well, that's the juicy part. I was waiting to get to that. So, the trial. Down on the docks, there's a warehouse that belongs to Ms. Green. It has her symbol on every corner. It's currently closed, in between uses, I guess you could call it, in needing of cleaning out. Don't worry, we're not going to be getting you to do that. And someone is using it, and they're not using it for legal means. We believe that they're utilizing the sewer that goes from the dockside itself into the warehouse to smuggling goods. We believe that they're going to be there tonight. We believe that there's roughly 5 of them, although there could be as many as 7, as little as 3. But we believe that there are 5. And we believe that most of them are just mercenary workers, smugglers of a kind. And then there'll be one person who is running the smuggle run. What we want you to do is to go into the warehouse with advantage. We want you to either sneak in and catch them unawares, shock them, get in by deception, whatever floats your boat, I believe I heard in the tavern the other day, and deal with them. By deal with them, I mean make sure that the workers, the smugglers, come to a very bloody end. I want bodies. I want there to be an example of what happens when you trespass and when you commit crimes on green property, thereby implicating us in those horrible, horrible crimes. This is the type of justice you see every day in the streets, so it shouldn't shock you, especially you. And she looks at Eclipse. However, the person who
Who'd she say that
organizes
to?
Did she say that to you, cannot.
she looks at Eclipse when she says about street justice, being that you're a bounty hunter.
Yeah. She just kind of looks back and shrugs.
However, the person who organizes this run, and I should imagine they will probably be adept at magic, so be careful there. I want them alive. I want to be able to question them afterwards. So kill everyone apart from the boss and make sure that they're in no position to escape. As for the whatever they are smuggling, you can just leave it there. We will make sure that the guards pick it up and deal with it. And there we go. That's pretty much it. Go in, take out the thugs, get the ringleader ready for questioning and justice. And that's it. Caveats. First of all, I don't want any damage to the property. I do not want this to be solved by burning the warehouse down. You'd be surprised how many people decide that that's an innovative way of getting this done, and then they expect employment afterwards. Heavens. Secondly, I do not want you to take any items there for yourself. After we have assessed the bodies and so forth, if there's anything of worth on them, being that we don't want them, we will, of course, give them to you. But especially the shipments, we do not want you to handle them. We do not want your fingerprints on them. We do not want you linked against them in any way, because if you are linked against them, we'll have to wait until you're exonerated, until the guards have eliminated you from their inquiries to continue using you. Common sense? Yes?
DM, I want to make an insight check because Aiden is just hearing this and looking at her talk, and he's thinking, is this lady even alive? So I want to make an insight check.
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it. I've just rolled mine.
That's give me a second. I can't do math.
Math.
21.
Yeah,
Isn't that where we went to...
you just beat her by one. Yeah, she's definitely hiding something. You didn't beat her by a great deal, but I will give you that she's one of the things that she said was not true. And it's
right.
it's very well practiced. What she did was incredibly well practiced. You know, she's managed to tie it all together. Everything seems to make sense. And yeah, you just you don't know what it is, but something about her statement just doesn't ring true.
Yeah, right. I literally just go, right.
So, are you up to the
Okay.
task?
Yes, I do
Yes.
think this would work.
Sure.
Very much so, Miss Storm.
Excellent.
Is there a reason why we can't just, scare them off?
Scaring them
Yeah.
off does not make an example of them. Scaring them off just means that the smugglers will try to find another way into the city. We keep our position, our status within the city by solving such problems and being one of the factions within the city that solves these problems more often than many of the other factions. We like to keep on top of that high score.
Mm-hmm.
Scaring them off is not enough. We want information. We want to know what game is being played here and win it. She gives a very disquieting smile at
Right.
that point.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Uh. Well,
So kill.
if
So we're capturing leader and then killing the minions,
Yes,
essentially.
eloquently put.
all right. I don't know. I think at least I'll take my leave then. I think that's all we need to know. And I
When
very awkwardly start moving backwards.
when do you want this done, Miss Green?
I told you.
Not
They're
Miss Green, Miss Storm. I said wrong.
Yes, I am Miss Storm. Tonight. You were told they are coming tonight. If you succeed, you will have a message sent to you at dawn to come back here. If you do not get the message, please do not come here. It would be quite embarrassing that you would be turned away at the gate. We will be sending you magical messages from now on, effectively audio summons that you can hear in the back of your head.
So, team,
Right.
team, we might need to do some plans together.
If that's
So,
everything,
Do we
I'm
have
afraid
any names or descriptions of these people?
I'm afraid not. No, they will just be in the warehouse. Whoever's in the warehouse, take care of them. They're trespassing at the
sorry.
very least, so you have every right to attack them.
You'll forgive me, the docks is not a small place. Which specific warehouse is it?
Of course, she gestures to one side, and using Mage Hand, a small slip of paper flies to her hand, and she hands it to you. And it's a street map, just like any street map that you'll be able to buy in the city to be able to get around. Some enterprising young dwarf realized how many people get lost in this hive of a city and made effectively an A to Z. And this is one such map. You take a look at it, and it has the name and address of the warehouse.
Very useful, that.
I just didn't
Very
want us to
well.
do a load of work and end up at the wrong place and beat up and kill the wrong people. If somebody's going to meet their end, let's make sure it's the right people.
Indeed.
That sounds very smart. Never go for the wrong target. It never ends well.
Indeed. Oh,
Now, if that will be all.
So
Yeah.
That's all you want, so yeah.
Yeah. I'll just.
So
I guess we'll leave. Yeah.
So what time shall we meet then, and where?
I believe you
Clamor-
can discuss this around the corner. If you go to the Rat and Carrot, the tavern that's just around the corner, say that you are the new recruits. You'll be given a hearty breakfast with drink where you can plan what you need to plan.
why, thank
Okay.
you, Miss Storm.
She gives a curt bow and says, "Charmed. I will wait for Magda to show you out." And at that point, Magda almost perfectly steps around the corner and gestures kind of emphatically to get out of the study.
Right.
Eclipse
Right,
kind of
on
like
it,
half
on it.
jogs outside because she does not want to be caught inside here with the scary lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
We grab
soon
farewell by the arm and we go.
as
Farewell
soon as
and
I am
bonne
out
chance.
of as soon as I am away from Mrs. Storm's earshot, I just like do it like I give away a big sigh, like letting a lot of air out. Just
You okay there, friend?
Let's get a drink.
Sounds good.
A
yeah,
drink would
yeah,
be
that sounds
welcome,
good.
yes?
That sounds good.
You step out into the city, and the city has woken up fully. Now the streets are bustling, even here in the royal quarter, where a lot of people aren't really allowed to go. You kind of get moved on by the guard. You find yourself being just shocked that you've come in this, quiet entrance, and now it feels like you've been there for hours. You head towards the.
What time was it again? Sorry.
It's around about 8 a.m. So the city's just kind of fully woken up now. Many people are already in work. Some of the people who have got slightly more cushy jobs are on their way to work. And you get a lot of noise as the city once again wakes up and takes on its day form. You look down the road, and just down the road is a place called the Rat and Carrot.
Well, let's get some free food, I think, and a drink.
Might as well get
Maybe
some
2
benefits
drinks.
before it all shit breaks out.
Okay. You head down into the tavern, and the tavern starts bustling. Remember, for a lot of people, they've just stopped their day's work. So some people are winding down, some people are eating their breakfast. You notice that the tavern tends to split in two around this time. You've got some people who, as I say, are night workers. They're quiet by their very nature. And they're sat at the back, they're drinking. There's a few people who are a little bit louder. Maybe they've just managed to get their yield in the factory, and so they've been paid a better wage today. And so they're kind of celebrating a little bit. But other people are just waking up. And if the night guys get a little bit loud, they tend to get glared at by the people who have just woken up. And you go up to the bar. And behind the bar is actually a Tauren. Okay, so a large Minotaur type character with long horns that kind of go out perpendicular to his head, and you notice that this bar must have been made for him because it's actually quite tall. But even then, you notice that he does crane his neck sometimes to stop knocking a glass off a high shelf. So, what can I do for you, folks?
Hello, friend. We were told that we would be given a free breakfast from Miss Olivia.
From Miss Storm, is that?
Yes.
Ah.
That's what she told us anyway.
Ah, right, okay.
We are on our first our assessment task from Miss Green.
Oh, is that right?
Indeed.
And what exactly is your assessment of her fine organisation? And he kind of points up to a crest on the top of the bar, which is one of Green's quests. One of Green's quests. I'm going to be able to say it in a second. One of Green's crests. There we go.
Nice.
And
you did it.
he says, "What do you think about joining the ranks?"
It looks like a fine choice, given the city's penchant for fun.
Fun. That word's never been used before. Fair enough. Okay. So, it'll be the full breakfast for each of you, I should imagine, with a good hearty day ale.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, please.
Righto. There's a seat over there. Just kick the guy who's asleep underneath it so you can sit down, and it'll be over in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You guys sit down, and you are free to start planning your endeavor. You do notice that this warehouse is one of the more expensive warehouses. The fact that it's not currently being used is a little odd. Normally, everything gets used in the city. This one is right on the dockside, so it's prime property for just being able to store goods there, put it onto a ship, take stuff off. even just as a holding space for ships, the warehouse would make a large amount of money. So for it to not be functional at all is really weird. And yeah, you have a look at the location. It's in a central location, and it's just a big rectangle warehouse on the dockside.
As soon as we sit down, make sure that we're out of anyone's earshot. I say, did any of you find anything off about Miss Storm?
No, not really. She was quite a lovely lady, wouldn't you?
Okay, I shouldn't ask you because, come on, you can't hide it. You just can't hide it.
Huh?
Yes. Glory, my friend, you have quite a lot of tells, my dear.
But yeah, everyone else apart from Glory. Did any of you find anything off about her?
I think the whole place is off.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fair.
to be fair, not to be rude, as we've just met, but compared to you, she seemed a little bit more normal.
Oh.
I give him a little bit of an elbow in that.
Sorry. I mean, I'm the 6 foot tall green guy with gills, and he watches Farewell, turns his head, and like where his ears should be, your man, he's almost got like fish sort of kind of style flippers on his ear, and he just gently lifts it up, and you can see sort of a smallish ear, but behind it 3 large gills. And he sort of goes, and he sort of shrugs.
But I've seen weirder shit. Honestly, I just I don't know about you, but like she talked and acted a bit like, I don't know, an automaton. Is that a word I can use, by the way, DM? Is that something I can use in this setting?
Right. So yes, you can, because your family have come across some really weird shit in some of the mansions that you've cleared out. So yeah, you know what an automaton is. I would say Glory probably knows what that is. The rest of you are kind of like, what's that?
Yeah, like I don't know. Something about the way she talked, just the way she smiled, felt hollow. I don't know. I think the entire place just feels uncanny.
Like she wasn't alive?
Yeah, something along those lines. I don't know.
I wouldn't
that
be
entire
surprised
place
if she wasn't like just some weird illusion of something.
I think it's very possible we just talked to an illusion the entire time. That because nobody touched her.
Okay, I'm gonna
That is a fair assessment. I mean, the magic is there.
Glory, I want you to roll Arcana. Aiden, I want you to roll.
Eclipse. So what do you want me to roll?
What I want is for Glory to roll Arcana. I want Aiden to roll Insight, and I want Farewell to roll Religion. Eclipse, I'll allow you to do Arcana as well, and Kora, and I'll come to you one at a time. Don't need to call out the results. Kora, I will give you a perception with advantage.
What did you give for me? I didn't catch it.
For Eclipse, I'll allow Arcana.
Arcana.
Okay, so I'm going to hang on. Don't call them out. I'm going to go to you one at a time because I kind of want to build up what you guys have just said, and just as you're questioning that Olivia might not be fully alive or fully real, you're all considering what's just been put on the table. So, Aiden, what did you get?
8.
Okay, yeah, you're a little rusty. It's been a while since you've been around what you consider to be the greater undead. You don't think she was undead, but it's plausible.
By the way, do we have our drinks already?
Yeah, the drinks have been set down. They're day beers, so they're very low alcohol beer, but it's a good way of of cleaning the water is to turn it into beer.
Yeah. As soon when Aiden makes that reality finishes that thought, he just takes a big gulp of day beer.
Sure. Glory, what did you get?
22.
22.
God.
You are certain you checked her out. You really checked her out. Professionally.
Oh,
Um,
I did.
Professionally.
Actually,
And in your very learned, very educated opinion of the parts that you studied very, very well, that was not an illusion. A fantasy, maybe, but not an illusion.
Okay, yeah.
Eclipse, what did you get?
18.
Okay, you also know that wasn't an illusion. That was a flesh and blood person.
Yeah.
Farewell for religion.
18.
18. Yeah, you're pretty sure she wasn't undead. Yeah, you're a grave cleric. Your DC was hugely lowered, and yeah, you're 100% certain that wasn't an undead.
Yeah, I must admit, the back of my head, Farewell would have been scribbling in his book, and again, tending to lean towards Kora to sort of, because he's not sure how much he can talk in front of these, and there'll be words like lich, undead, necromancy, and then just like crossed out lots as he sort of really considered what he saw.
Yeah. And finally, Kora, what was your perception check?
18.
18. Once again, because you're a Phalok, you know illusions. You definitely know illusions, and that wasn't an illusion. Again, the DC for you was hugely lowered, and yeah, you're confident that she was there.
Well, she might have been strange, but I think she was there. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, she looked pretty pale, but then so do you, Aiden.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, that wasn't meant to sound like an insult.
I know.
I'm just going to be giving like Kora some proper side eye, like
I kind of give him a look of like, damn, now I'm doing it.
You guys are delightful.
So we've got a map of the way to the Pacific. Jesus Christ!
Pacific Ocean.
Do I know this
You're-
warehouse?
Yeah, you've gone to that warehouse once or twice. When she started mentioning the warehouse, you kind of thought you knew which one already, but it's good to have a map to confirm it. It's one of those warehouses where you know that anything that you'd find in there probably isn't worth the trouble you'd get into if you were caught. So it's one of those ones where you'd kind of go, yeah, only if it was like a dead cert that we're not going to be caught would I ever go there. You know that there's better pickings throughout the city where they just assume a certain amount of stuff being stolen. This,
Right.
once again, being that you grew up in the city, Kora, you know that the Green Organization is one of those organizations that pretty much runs off making examples of people who do things that they don't want done. And so you're like, yeah, I know that one.
So I
just
wouldn't
realized-
be
sorry.
worried that I would know. Sorry, I wouldn't be worried that I would know who these people were doing the smuggling.
You know that anybody who would be coming in from the seaside of things wouldn't be Freetowners. They would be using the back alleys. They'd be using the rat routes that you know. So you're fairly certain that you're not going to be going up against anybody you know. If they're coming in from the sea, they're probably seaborne smugglers, a faction that's away from any that's within the city. So as far as you're concerned, you are quite certain you're not going to meet anybody you know or have to kill anyone you like. So
Okay.
yeah, it seems to be a fairly decent deal for you to start with. That thought has crossed your mind a few times. What if I get told to off somebody that I know? But at the moment, you think that the probability is going to be quite low.
Okay.
What you do know is that for Kora. Actually, now that we've brought up Kora in the map, you do know that you can get to that particular district without anybody following you. Yeah, that's right in the center.
I've just realised that's the question I forgot to ask Storm, but I wonder if it could be implied through what she told us. She said that the dock was closed off. Are we pretty sure that we're going to have a clean run to there, that the guards will either not be around or it's not protected to the point where we can just sort of get there without too much worry? Or are we going to have to really rely on Kora's expertise here to get us in quietly?
Would this be considered a official job, so the guards wouldn't bother us, but it's more getting in undetected from any of the smugglers?
A little of column B, a little of column A and a little of column B. You haven't been given any of Green's sigils, so you're very much going there as individual operators. You have got a number of options available to you. So where they said it was closed off, Olivia said that the warehouse was closed up. The dock itself and the pavement outside, not a problem really. You think that the two challenges here will be if you start attacking somebody, that the guards might intervene. Walking up to the warehouse itself, not a problem. Breaking into the warehouse, you haven't been given any keys or anything to get into the warehouse, then that's going to be something that could mean that a guard will intervene. It is an area of the city, and Kora knows this. This is why she has the rat routes, where guards will be patrolling because they will be paid by the Merchants Guild. Okay. The Merchant Guild and other people in the city, Renata being one of them, Miss Green being one of them, will pay the guards to be there in greater numbers, and also there will be an inference that anything that they stop, they will be heavily rewarded for. There's that kind of back-rubbing culture in this city. And so, yeah, the guards will be have-a-go heroes here, as opposed to the ones that will just kind of walk around the city and only break up stuff if they think that they can do so safely. They will actually have a pop because they think, oh, hang on, payday. So the main dangers that you can see here from the guards is breaking in and killing people. Other than that, the only other kind of problem that you'll have is if you decide to go in stealthily to get into the warehouse stealthily and approach whoever you are to attack to get that all-important surprise round.
Stab.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Well, I can get us to the warehouse. I know the city pretty well. I know where that warehouse is. We can probably avoid all the guards.
Oh, that would be a huge help. I am not the most stealth minded I've been told before. Oh dear.
Lovely.
That brings fresh memories.
Yeah, like Kora said, you are definitely very colourful, but I don't think getting in is going to be the problem. The problem is going to be how are we going to catch the guy that can sling spells as well as a few of us.
Well, I have a few options. I do have some spells in my repertoire which will allow us to put him to sleep once he gets low enough. But we need to.
I think I might do something. I think maybe probably.
Well,
What?
I can cast silence.
That would be useful.
That would.
If we're having to take people out, we don't want them screaming.
But the problem with that is if you move out of it, you can scream again, and equally if I'm in it or anybody else that needs magics in it, you can't cast either.
Oh dear.
What we could do, because if you cast silence and they are just sitting around and not talking, we can probably pick a lot of people off before they notice.
Yeah,
I can do that.
And It's you have control over it, yes. So if someone goes in and that wants to be able to speak, you can just drop it.
Yeah, I can do that. It's and I'm going to ask the DM here: is would I comprehend that I would know that it's say like for example, a 20-foot sphere?
Yes. So
Would that
you
be something I'd be aware of?
yeah, part of your training, part of the family training, has done this very thing. So where you've gone up against undead mage type characters, you have some people in your family who are physically very strong, and so what you've done as a kind of combo attack is that you've cast silence, and then you've got somebody who's got high strength to go up, do a grapple check effectively on the caster. Casters not known for their ability to get out of grapples unless they can teleport or do whatever, which usually requires them to cast. Just to remind you that a silence spell can only stop casting of anything that has a verbal component. So anything that is just
Which is
simply
almost every
somatic.
spell.
It's anything that has a verbal component or a sound-based component, it will stop. Anything that is just purely somatic or component, and some innate abilities as well, so racial abilities, can still be performed in there. So, for example, if you have a elf that is capable of doing the Misty Step once a day as a racial thing because they've taken the appropriate feat, they will be able to very happily jump out of the silence. But yeah, it's worked quite well for you. You know, grappling a caster, casting silence so that they can't do anything, and then some other members of the family have just gone up and just stabbed and crushed them to death. In terms of taking down somebody and not killing them, obviously any weapon attack can be changed to a blunt attack. You either turn to the flat.
Damage.
Yeah, you can turn to the flat of the blade. You can hit them with the pommel of the blade, or you can just go up and start doing physical attacks. If you have,
I just sort of point at my mace.
yeah, absolutely. Your mace, you can do a thing which is basically saying I'm going to do non-lethal damage. So you'll just kind of duff them upside the head, and if you reduce them to 0 hit points, they go to unconscious but automatically stabilized. Okay. So that could be one way of packaging them ready for their interrogation by other members of the organization. There are other ways as well. Of course, you've got sleep was mentioned. Hold person is another possibility. You can intimidate them
have
to
that.
give up, so you get them to surrender. You can otherwise convince them, persuade them, do whatever is necessary to get them to acquiesce. Yeah, there's lots of different ways to do this, and you have a feeling that this is kind of the prestige part, the class that Olivia's asking you, and that is to neatly package up this person ready for them to get information from. And that's the thing that you probably think that they are most interested about.
If we want to, I have a slight idea. We might be able to trick this person and get them outside and basically overwhelm them all without their friends and capture them without having to deal with all their damage.
Problem is that she wants examples.
No, as in we can take him out or them out. I'm not sure.
So you mean take him out first?
Yes, and then go in and clean up.
Oh, okay.
That could
Fair.
work.
Yeah, that could work. I mean,
So I suppose Miss Storm and Miss Green, by extension, would want us to do this with finesse, so to say. You do not think we can talk our way through this? Of course, violence is extremely good, but as she said, no property damage. And I am unfortunately very, very prone to that, as I do not, how do you say it, attack by normal means.
It was so we need to make an example, which is having bodies, which is mostly the minions, but then we need to take care. So we need to be taking care of the bodies with much death.
DM,
No.
do you happen to have
In
a
no uncertain
map?
terms.
Oh, what, sorry?
Do you have an image of the map by any chance that we were given, just so we can have a look at it?
No, I mean the reason why I didn't make a map.
Zoom down.
Yeah, the reason why I didn't. The reason why I didn't make a map for this is that it is literally a rectangular building, a simple. I mean, there's no embellishment here. It's a warehouse, so it is a warehouse that is rectangular in shape. It has a street that goes all the way around it with street lights that are magical street lights. So they have kind of the almost like the create bonfire cantrip, but watered down. There's a particular set of mages called the Magi Domestica, who are kind of low-level mages that their job in the city is to just go around lighting torches and making sure the fountains work and all that jazz. And then one of the narrow ends of the warehouse point directly at one of the docks, and yeah, that's it. It's not hard to imagine. Which is why I didn't really.
Lines if I was trying to see if there was any decent ambush points or areas where we could sort of working on what Eclipse said about the sort of luring them out. If we could lure them into somewhere a bit more convenient for us to fight them.
Well, that's one of the nice things about this is that the reason why I won't do maps sometimes is that if you're looking for something like that in terms of narrative, that's something that I want to be able to provide. So that's not actually down to whether or not there's a feature on a map. That's down to Kora rolling a what would be in other games a streetwise check.
Sorry. Sorry.
Roll well.
I was
Street smart.
I was actually about to ask Kora that if she knew if there was any good advantage points around the warehouse, since Glory doesn't know the area that well.
Shall I roll for it?
Absolutely. If you want to recall that area. So the background, just to explain for the listeners, the background for Kora is Urchin, which is a really interesting background. It allows you to travel very fast through a city, but with Kora's speech marks background and her written background, she knows these places throughout the city called rat routes. They are little bolt holes that you can hide whilst the guards are trying to look for you, and they're the faster and more stealthy routes through the city. So Kora, well, Kate in this case, I would like you to do what I just would consider to be an appropriate roll. Play to your strengths. This is one of your strengths. What role do you think would be fair for you to roll to see if you know of such a place near this particular warehouse?
That is a good question. What is my strength?
So, for example, stealth could be stealth could be an option, or
yeah, if stealth is okay for that, I was thinking more like I don't know, investigation or survival, but like
either of those. Yep. So I'll accept investigation.
Stealth is the best one.
Yeah, well, they're asking for a hiding spot, and stealth is about hiding. Investigation would be, oh yes, I've investigated that area before, and survival would be more a case of, I know places where you can be resistant to being tracked. So any of those three would be suitable, but stealth sounds like the best one.
Stealth because that's a +4.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea. Roll high.
Oh, I rolled 19. So 19 plus 4, 23.
Absolutely. You've got a few places. So there's a tiny little tuck where they actually split two warehouses down the middle. But both of the warehouse owners, the new warehouse owners, didn't want to yield any ground. So the two walls are so close together that you actually won't be able to get a crate down there, but you can shimmy down there yourself unless you're like a Goliath or a particularly wide dwarf. You won't have a problem getting down there. and it's not.
I definitely don't have a problem, but other people.
Yeah,
who
exactly.
knows?
Yeah, this is how you know it. I mean, this is one of your rat routes. You know, this is one of the places where you know you can just pretty much run in there, and as long as you stay quiet, you know, they'll forget that that's a place that you can go down. You also know of a doorway that doesn't get used anymore. It's a doorway that goes down into a cellar, and the steps go down into that doorway, and the doorway is slightly countersunk. There's not a functioning lamp above it anymore because it's not used, and you know that the door is barricaded on the other side quite thickly. You won't even be able to kick the door in. You could maybe burn it away or use magic, but that would be very loud. You need a lot of energy. So going down that flight of stairs and just hiding in there is actually a nice little hiding spot. It's a little obvious, but if you wanted to just like take somebody down there, give them a good kicking and leave them there unconscious, most people would walk past. They wouldn't kind of go down there deliberately to check things. And the only thing about it is that it does have a small gate. I mean, it's about waist high for everybody else, but that's like the height of your head. The only thing about that is that because of how you are accustomed to having to vault over things and run through the city, you don't have a problem getting over that gate. For most other people, they would probably just have to watch their trousers or whatever they're wearing when they put their leg over the gate and make sure they don't catch anything sensitive.
aka a panty shot.
Yes, yeah, you will have to
I-
roll
I would-
for panty shot, I'm afraid, Glory. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will relay that. And while I'm doing that, I will also say that, you know, I think that rather than attacking them all at once, I think we should try and attack them individually because, you know, there's 5 to 7 people, right? So we don't want to be just attacking 6, 7 people, right?
No.
Yeah,
If we can
probably.
take one out and then maybe another out and then maybe another out, like you say, lure one out. Maybe there's a crate. Maybe they're moving crates between boats and the warehouse, or I don't know what they're doing, but
My
Well, I can do this to lure them out, and I use thermotorchy to make all the lights flicker.
it was like, hey,
I take another gulp of my day beer.
that will definitely get attention.
Yeah, it has got attention. There's a
yes.
Minotaur currently looking at Farewell.
Sorry.
I just wave.
Fair-
I just
Farewell.
wave because I'm not sure what the appropriate social interaction is for that. I'm just like, he's staring at me, so I should wave. That's the polite thing to do.
He carries
I'm
on
doing
cleaning a
that
pewter
thing.
tankard.
I'm doing that thing where I'm holding like the bridge of my nose with 2 of my fingers. Just
You know,
I'm
Alright.
just going to slide my beer over to Aiden as I'm not feeling particularly thirsty for day beer. I'd rather have something to actually eat.
you know,
Um,
Farewell,
Fair.
that's a really cool trick, but that will get the shackles up. We should
Question.
probably like, you know, be a bit stealthy.
question.
Okay.
Do I think if we lure the captain guy out, that the others would come and looking for him pretty quickly, or would he? I basically asked that to you guys as well.
Mm-hmm.
If the other guys could basically go out one by one and looking for him, and people keep disappearing, if that would be a thing or not.
You know, until we go and see what they're doing, it's really hard to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, knowing, I mean, there's been a few fights that I've been in, and especially with groups. The ones that use magic don't like being on their own, and they don't go anywhere on their own.
Yeah.
Generally,
Uh,
no.
DM, I just want to ask how much time has passed since we left the green, like, state and now.
You've been talking and eating at the same time. It's probably about 9:30 in the morning. you've got the whole day to
Right.
prepare. If you wanted to go, for example, if you think they're not going to turn up in the daytime, you can go check out the place in the day. If you wanted to do any form of stakeout or anything like that beforehand to see who's sniffing around, you could do that too. So yeah, you've got the day to plan, and
Simon,
you've been told around about sunset that you should kind of get in there. Yes, Glory.
Simon,
hmm
do I have any contacts around that area that I could go and talk to without it being suspicious, like in the middle of the day like this?
Okay, this is your background check, so I want you to roll a charisma plus proficiency roll.
Charisma plus proficiency. Aye.
Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious.
I am very suspicious because I rolled a nat 1.
Okay.
First nat 1 so far, and it's great.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be
Very
suspicious. Don't be...
Glory.
Just the embodiment of that video right now.
Glory, you do actually know somebody who owns a warehouse nearby and might be able to tell you a lot about this thing. The problem is that the last time that you went partying with them, you kind of got a little bit drunk, and you kind of made inappropriate advances to his wife.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah.
if you do want to get this information, you'll have to go there with a big slice of humble pie.
So might as well roll that plan out, huh?
I haven't even told you about it, but yes.
Yeah, I think that was
Like-
Rodrigo talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just glory things.
Yeah. To be fair, it was a really pretty wife, okay?
Did you just say that, like, with no context?
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with that
she
line,
said
like-
that with under her breath. And you
Yeah,
guys are confused.
I just go, oh my god, this day is gonna last forever.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting into a lot of D&D tropes here that you're planning, which is good, and it's going to take a long time for you to get an idea, but that's cool. That's cool.
I was actually going to say, I kind of want to go look at this place. I want to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, bear in mind,
go
it's a
ahead.
dockside, so you're going to be blending in with a crowd. It's a dockside, and so yeah, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to grab my bags and stuff and say
Yeah,
that
once
I
we've
think we
eaten.
should. Yeah. Oh yeah. Obviously, once we've eaten, because I'm starving at this stage.
Is it a good idea that we all go together? I mean, because I feel like it's like how many are we? Or like 1, 2, 3, 4,
5.
like 5. Yeah, 5. Sorry, I can't do math. 5 weirdos like like snooping around one of the.
Speak for
One of the
yourself. Farewell is very normal.
The idea is not to like snoop around. We're just walking by the docks and
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if we're walking around in a one big group, that's gonna that's gonna raise a lot of suspicions.
Okay,
But
so
we're just friends having a stroll, getting some groceries.
why
I
don't
mean, the
we
fishermen
Grocery
down there have
in the
such good stuff.
docks?
Well,
Why
don't guys
isn't
go
there
into
like
a
some kind
couple
of
of
fish
groups?
market going on in the docks or something?
Yeah.
We're going to look at fish.
Kate, what were you saying?
we could. Well, why don't we split into like 2 or 3 groups, and then reconvene? Like go scout out for an hour or 2, and then come back here and talk.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
good
fine.
idea.
I mean, walking around in a group probably wouldn't have been that much of a problem, especially in the docks. The docks have always got new ships coming in all the time. People are
Alright.
coming off the boats with lots of different Lots of different races. It's a very cosmopolitan city. It's also a very violent city as well. There are bits breaking out all the time. Even though you've got the guards that kind of end it quickly, there's a lot of enmity because wherever there's money, there's usually hatred. And you think that walking around as a group probably wouldn't cause that much attention ordinarily because safety in numbers and all the rest of it. You do, however, have two very rare races. The Genocide and the Tabaxi are pretty damn rare. So that if anybody was to turn around and look at any newcomers, or if any of the smugglers was there just casing out to see if anybody was snooping around, the Genocide and the Tabaxi in one group may trigger something. The Tabaxi on their own, probably not a problem. The Genocide on its own, probably not a problem. Halflings, tieflings, humans, yeah, there's tons of you in the city. So yeah, that's pretty much what you would see. The only other thing as well is Glory is quite ostentatious. A cleric walking around, not a problem. Eclipse walking around, Eclipse is well known, so we'll have to make a fame roll to if anybody is casing out the joint to see whether or not anybody notices her. That's technically true of Glory as well, but for a different reason. And but a cleric walking around, no problem. Kora is an expert at this. She doesn't even have to roll. She walks down a road, just a street in the city, looking like everybody else. Aiden looks slightly different, but largely just looks like one of those really edgy guys that's just come off a ship and probably is on his way to a contract somewhere. So they won't want to mess with Aiden. If Aiden's just stalking down the road, they'll be like, that guy's bad news, and just stay away from him.
I also detail Aiden looks tired, just very tired.
Yeah. Which means that you look like you just came off a ship. So you're probably blending quite well. And you're a human. There's a benefit to being human, and that is you look like every other human, except just a little sick, maybe a little seasick, and a little tired. So that you are just like an ordinary schmo walking down the street with a really badass coat.
Cool. Thank you.
The only trouble, with us splitting up is that I would like to point out the places that are maybe good hiding spots. So
I mean, okay, we can go in a big group if that's what you guys want. I'm okay with that.
I mean,
shouldn't be any problem.
No offense, but some of you guys are a little unusual.
I can make myself. I can make myself a lot less unusual if that's required.
Well, it might help. We have no idea if these smugglers are around. They might be casing out the joint just as much as we are.
If you want, I can do that. We just need to make sure that we know what we're doing.
Kate, do me a stealth check, please.
Everybody.
No, just
now?
Kate. Just Kate.
A stealth check?
Yeah, just Kate.
Oh, me? Oh, okay.
Oh boy.
Just random stealth check.
Kate,
So good.
you can do it.
Oh no.
So good.
Why are we doing a random?
12?
12 is enough. 12 is enough. It's just to see whether you've got an idea. Yeah, you do. You're pretty certain that if the Tabaxi transforms, it could be that the Genocide Cleric is just showing some people around the city. They do that from time to time. They tend to be ambassadors of the faith. You kind of start just getting an idea that you could potentially pass off a bit of a backstory, just walking around and just getting farewell to just to blag that he's just showing some people the docks. A tiefling, a blood hunter, sorry, not a blood hunter, a tiefling, a human, a halfling, and whatever the Tabaxi disguises themselves at. Yeah, it'd be one remarkable person. But as long as they're playing the role, you think, yeah, you've done similar ops where you've had to have one person pretending to be something like a works foreman or something like that, and farewell could just be farewell.
At this suggestion, Farewell does look absolutely horrified about the idea of pretending to be something.
You just have to pretend to be yourself. It's okay.
And even that does not make him feel better.
Yeah, it's that thing where everybody turns around and says, "Just act natural," and at that point, the one thing that is impossible is acting natural. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just like completely freezes and goes like, "Yep, acting natural."
We have a few hours, I guess.
That beer's still on the table.
Yeah, take it.
Yeah, I'm finishing the beer.
Sure.
He's gonna finish the beer. He's like,
Yeah.
and there'll be like several mantras that he knows that he's just going to start muttering under his breath. He's going to go back into his book and he's going to look at his notes because again, whilst he's been in the city for about 2 years, for him a lot of his time is just in Freetown. So he's going to start working on things he knows and that Kora's kind of told him, and he's just trying to get it in his head. He's working now. He's just drowned you all out. It's work mode.
I asked this in character to the group. So what time are we thinking about doing this? Like, are we gonna do this now, or are we gonna wait a bit?
To go and yeah, I think we should probably go.
You cut
Hey,
out.
you
That's
cut
so-
out.
Oh,
Oof.
That
Okay,
Say it
hang on a
again.
sec.
I wonder if their internet's just dipped.
Can you-
maybe.
Can you
I
hear
see.
me?
Might have.
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, the internet's okay because we've got the same internet. I will just message Corinne and tell her to restart.
Yeah.
Huh?
While
Can
she's
you hear me now,
doing that,
guys?
Yes, I can hear you.
yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, I was saying that if we should go after we've ate, and my question was if we have eaten or if we've had our food yet.
Yes, you've had your food and all the rest of it. If you guys want to crack on and just go to the stakeout scene, then that is absolutely fine. You've already got an idea of what kind of plans that you would like to have available, and just getting a bit of extra information now. And you can talk afterwards as well. You have got the whole day, so
One
go
of
for
the
it.
things that I'm going to ask is I'm going to look at Kora and sort of just say, "Can you get one of those badges?"
Oh, Miss Green's badges?
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably should have just asked for one. Yeah. Let me see. Hold on. Like,
Also,
do I know anyone, Simon? Do I know anyone who like might have one that I can borrow, or am I just looking around at who might have one on them that I can nab?
Okay, I'm not even going to get you to do a perception check for this. Everyone in this tavern, bar a few people and yourselves, are wearing one of those icons on their hip or on their shoulder or on a piece of uniform. And as I say, there's the one above the bar. The other thing as well is, and this would occur to any of you who has prestidigitation. Prestidigitation does allow you to create a small object of your choice that fits in your hand. It's deceiving, but you can just generate one of these tokens. Now that you've seen them, you can generate it using prestidigitation in your hand to just show it to someone.
Shit, I should have taken that as a cantrip.
I don't think.
Yeah, I
you
had
can
an illusion that I could have taken and I didn't.
I have minor illusion, so I can do. I can make an illusionary one. I can't do one that someone can grab, but I can make the.
Yeah.
I
So-
assume that's the same thing, but
Absolutely.
Just an
So, yeah.
illusionary one.
Prestidigitation, as long as you're concentrating on it, will be a physical object that you can hand to them and they can look at it. The minor illusion, you can have it in your hand, but if they ask to look at it, you'll be passing a hologram.
Yeah.
But you can try.
But yeah,
you can certainly try.
As soon as I ask that, I just go cool, and I eat it. Cool, and I finish eating my food. My
Your
plate of
breakfast,
food,
yeah.
and then I immediately face plant the table and fall asleep.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay,
Aiden?
that's strange.
That
Aiden?
I'm gonna nudge him.
Poke.
Oh, is this normal for you humans?
I just
I'm going to. My medical training is going to click in now, and I'm just going to lean over and just check his pulse and actually check if he's alive. Because again,
He
in
might look like he
Farewell's
just
line of
passed out
work,
dead.
it has been known that people will occasionally just drop dead. So he's going to just make sure that he doesn't now need to take a trip back to Freetown and bury somebody. So yeah, I'd like to check if he has a pulse.
Okay, yeah, so two things here. The first thing is that when Glory turns around and goes, "Is this normal for you humans?" She looks at the genocide, the halfling, and the tabaxi, they look back as if to say, "How the hell should we know?" And then, you're a grave cleric, Farewell, so you don't even need to take the pulse. You do take the pulse because that would be an interesting note in the book to find out whether he has a healthy pulse or not. But
I'm also thinking autopsy.
yeah, but as your hand kind of goes towards him, your hand's about 2 inches away from his skin, and you instantly know that he's still alive. It's still a strange signal, but it is an alive signal. And then you take his pulse, and his pulse is it's disturbing. It's almost as if the pulse kind of has to remember to keep pulsing. So it's like, instead of it being bub boom, bub boom, bub boom of someone, sleeping, it goes bub boom, bub boom, bub boom. And then suddenly it waits a little too long, and almost as if it's been caught out, goes bub boom, bub boom, bub boom. He is going uber slow.
He's just sort of like, because then he'll obviously there's no watches, but he's going to start just trying to tap out the rhythm with his finger on the table, and he'll just because he's obviously very confused by this, will just put his own fingers against his own pulse.
Yeah, it's
and then without even thinking it, he'll lean over and try and get Kora's pulse, because he's convinced of, is this like, he knows humans, he's worked with humans before, this is not right.
Yeah.
Also, a detail you notice is that when you touch the skin, Aiden's really fucking cold.
Yeah, he's bitterly cold. No body temperature whatsoever, which kind of takes you back, and then you kind of check again that he's not dead and go, nope, he's definitely not dead. His skin would actually confuse somebody into thinking he might be dead, though. If it wasn't for the fact that you're a grave cleric and also seen a lot of dead bodies. I mean, this is why I'm not even getting you to roll. Interesting thing about race pulses, I guess. You put your finger to your own neck, and because you're a water genocide, you do get this kind of constant rushing. You don't actually have a pulse. It's kind of just a whooshing sensation under your fingers, and you go, yeah, and that's why you reach over to Kora, is that you're like, yep, can't compare those. You put your hand on Kora, presuming that she doesn't pull her hand away the second you attempt it. And do you pull away, Kora?
No, it's all good.
Okay.
No. I feel like he might have done this before.
Probably.
Not exactly the same, but that kind of thing. It's like, I'll just be the assistant for a moment.
This is one of those things where, on anybody else, this would be a really odd behavior. With him, it's just another day in the office. And you've taken human pulses before, Farewell. So Aiden's pulse is kind of one pulse per 4 human pulses. However, you're comparing it against a halfling, and a halfling is like a drum solo. Yeah. Her pulse is going incredibly, incredibly fast. Halflings are capable of incredible turns of speed. Bear in mind how small their legs are, and they can still go as fast as a human that's going full pelt. They're capable of incredible turns of speed. Adrenaline doesn't even cover it. Halflings do, on average, have about 6 meals a day. So yeah, you're there like, yep, about, we're talking about maybe 12 to 1, and you realize that, all you're confirming is that Kora has a pulse and that Aiden has a pulse. So you have successfully determined that the 2 people at the table are alive.
Well, I was
Question.
actually going to say that an Aiden is about 0.35 of a Kora, is what he's worth out.
You note that
when
down in the book.
I just kind of look at you and go like, what the actual fuck?
Oh, sorry. He's not dead. He's
Oh.
just. I think it's exhaustion. I'm not sure.
Shock?
That too.
Should we let him sleep?
Humans.
Maybe?
Well,
Glory
they are
feels nodding
frail.
to herself, by the way, like
I'm.
humans.
Yeah, they are frail and. Don't touch him. And he just keeps staring at him like, dude, that boy is not right. Yeah.
Is it worth us getting any things? I mean, if we've got to capture someone and like, do we need like a net? Is that weird?
I don't want to sound weird, but I've got shackles, and I actually take out these actual shackles that Bare Bones has, and I'm just going to drop them on the table. And he goes, hold on, and he starts like rooting through his bag, and he pulls out a crowbar, a hammer, a sensor, which then he looks at himself and goes, "Oh no, that's useless," and puts it back in.
I feel like the noise that he's making wakes me up, and I just feel his fingers against my neck, and I look at him and I say, I will literally pay you for you to stay away from me.
Yeah, but sure, you do get that. But as you're waking up, you do feel the fingers on your neck. You start to wake up. But the thing that really wakes you up is the hammer and the crowbar that's been dumped unceremoniously on the table about 5 inches away from your head. Oh yeah, the shackles in particular. You fell asleep in a moment of kind of exasperation, and then you woke up, and suddenly there's like a DIY bondage kit right in front of you.
So really, the only thing I'm missing for a fun time is rope.
I
you say
think I might have some rope.
Because he's trying to make a joke. He's trying to. He's like, I like the mood.
I'll see what this Eclipse do. She will laugh at you awkwardly.
I open the pouch and I take out 3 gold pieces and I just slide them over to Farewell. Be like, not even 5 feet near me.
Honestly, Gloria's just looking at them like, you disgust me.
I'm just going. I mean, completely out of character. I'm going to remind you of this when you whinge that I'm not healing you.
Yeah.
I will quite obviously take the gold, because who am I to refuse such an offer? And I'm going to, as I always do, is I'm going to give 1 to Kora, 1 for myself, and then 1 will go into my other pouch for the family. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, so somebody mentioned rope. Bear in mind the technology that you have here. Rope is quite possibly one of the most common items that you will find in the city. You all have at home some source of rope. So the meme 50 foot of rope is very easy for you guys to just grab hold of. Kora could probably find about 6 or 7 places where people have just left rope in that area with the warehouse, so you don't even have to go home. There's just a place where she's like, yeah, sure. There's a place where they just stick it on top of this lean-to shed. We can just walk past and literally just pick it up.
And I mean, it's the docks as well, right? So there'll be
Yeah.
rope all over the place for
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
boats
Of all
and
different
various things,
sizes.
right?
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
Well, a good time down at the docks. There'll be rope there. I can find you some. You can have a blast. Whatever you fancy doing.
Oh,
At this point, he does go
Dearie,
bright red.
listen to me.
Start
You
blushing
don't
at the
want to
implication
bring
that he's
fire
going
to the bedroom.
Felicia,
Um,
What was
I did not hear any of that because
No, I
Felicia
missed
and Nick were talking at the same time.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, oh dearie, that you trust me, you don't want to bring fire into the bedroom.
Okay, I get up and I just like, where are the ducks again?
Yes, let's go to the docks.
Yeah, okay, let's do that.
Okay, you guys head off to the docks, and it's quite a pleasant walk. You walk from the Royal Quarter down into the parade grounds that's in the middle of the city. So, in the middle of the city, there is the Guild Hall, which is number 4 here on the map. There's the large, very ostentatious city hall, which is number 1 on the map. And you walk in between that and the law courts. Again, this one ostentatious, but also very imposing. Large statues of knights, paladins. There's a statue of Arathis, the goddess of civilization, and she is pointing. You notice that they put her statue over one of the entrances, and that's the entrance for the accused. Okay, it's called the Guilt Gate, and she's pointing with a single finger at whatever individual would be walking through the Guilt Gate, so that anybody who walks underneath it sees the goddess staring down at them, accusing them, pointing at them, saying, "You will be judged. You know, I will see all." Arathis being one of the more bureaucratic gods, and you know that a large amount of the clerics of Arathis go in there and serve in the law courts using spells like Zone of Truth to make sure that the correct outcome is reached. That's not to say that the law courts are above corruption. In some cases, they will forego certain formalities like the Zone of Truth because they believe it's just a case of stating what's already known. So why waste the magic, and why waste the godly intervention that could be used on real criminals, like the poor. And they as you walk past, Kora has a certain amount of just that the hairs on the back of your neck stand up just that little bit there. And Eclipse, as you walk past, it's almost with a snort of derision where you go, yeah, my justice doesn't even get to this court.
Yeah.
As for the rest of you, it's just a very big, weird, imposing building where whoever designed it was obviously trying to prove something to those who walk past. And you carry on past the guards' barracks and onto the promenade.
I just say out loud, like a random, like, thinking out loud. Wow, she looks pissed.
Yes.
Like pointing. Yeah, she looks pissed. What's up with that?
Well, you don't want to end up on the wrong side of her, that's for sure.
You tend to
Oh,
gods are.
is she special?
Well, when I say her, I mean the court. So
Oh,
Reasonable.
yes, the legal system.
Arathis is very much considered to be a rich person's god. They're about creating governments, creating cities, having particular laws, having particular ways like the economy that benefit the whole. It is to benefit everybody. So, I mean, she is a good goddess, and a lot of people do worship her. But there are sometimes when her priests and priestesses can be criticized for not looking after the individual and trying to look after society as a whole, rather than trying to do what is effectively the right here, right now moral thing. Looking at the big picture sometimes is needed to be foregone if somebody is at a certain level of suffering, and sometimes they can be a little blindsided to that. Even though they are essentially good, the method by which they enact that good isn't always the most practicable. You carry on past the guards' barracks, which is number 3 behind that, and as you are walking past, there is a moment of recollection on one guard's face as he sees Eclipse, and he just gives a curt nod, knowing that she is, amongst her many functions, a thief taker. And he just gives a curt professional nod as they walk past, but they don't come up to you for any reason. At this point, the guard nodding at Eclipse reminds her that she still currently looks like a Tabaxi.
Yes, I will change that as we get closer to the docks because I don't want to be basically waste the spell slot because it only lasts for an hour.
Yep, you are there. You are basically
Yeah.
there. So you are you're when you turn the corner, you're going to be in sight of the thing. So it's a good place to find a tuck.
So before I turn the corner, I basically just mutter something and flick with my hand, and I now look like a random black-haired female human just walking around.
Okay.
Very just the plainest looking human. Like you wouldn't look at her twice any time of day.
Is that plain human in the eyes of a Tabaxi, or plain human in plain human like we would think?
It's
plain
fairly
human
accurate.
As a human would think.
Yeah.
She is practiced at this. This is what she does.
Yeah. Okay.
I will also my hair roughly naturally is gonna be kind of a dark kind of red, plum kind of red, I guess. With sort of slightly lighter bits of red, but like I'm gonna kind of concentrate, like seeing the Eclipse change. I'm just gonna concentrate and try and make my hair just a brown, just to sort of not be too no distinctive features like that.
Righto.
This goes in the book. It's sort of again as Eclipse
Like
changes and
documenting
Kora
everything.
changes.
Yeah.
He just starts writing down in the book sort of the day and the time and how they've changed. And the question is, and there's just a question mark of I miss color in my hair? Question mark.
So, Farewell, you do know that Kora does have the ability to change her hair color at will. It's just something she's always been able to do. As far as you know, something that she's always been able to do. And so she just makes it less remarkable. The usual vibrant colors that she enjoys turn into a regular brunette, I think you said it was. And
Yeah. And Farewell actually knows knew what was like before, so
Yeah.
it's the last year that it's been able to change, and he knows why.
Yeah.
That's why he's writing it down. He's trying to that scientific thing in his head. He just
Yeah,
keeps
like-
going,
Sure.
causation, correlation.
Cool.
So
You
his
hit
mind
the
is
main
sticking out.
promenade then. So the main promenade is bustling with activity. In a city that already has bustle in good supply, there are people laughing and joking at the docks. There's a lot of sailors that are just hanging about. They've probably been sailing all night, been allowed into the harbour around now, and they were probably been told to weigh anchor a little further off and come in during the day so they can be processed by the harbour master. And so they're in. They've obviously by this time offloaded their cargo. They're waiting to see what other business arrives, and you get other people milling about. So you have roustabouts who are trying to get more work now that the offloading has been performed, and so they're trying to see what needs to be loaded onto the ships. They're also offering other services like cleaning decks, doing things that the sailors ordinarily would have to do, but the sailors would pay a little bit of coin for a roustabout to do it instead, so that they can enjoy a little bit extra shore leave. There's also people hawking all sorts of goods. So there's people who have some of the smaller boats, smaller ships, who are basically just selling straight off the ship to the nearby merchants and to other people who will have stores throughout the city. So everything from fruits and obviously a lot of fish. So the fishing boats have come in as well. And then just other things that have been taken from other cities. So a lot of import exports going on here. And you do notice Eclipse that there's a couple of Austron boats that have come in. So you can see spices, you can see colorful tapestries and other forms of textiles. You can see that someone is checking over a consignment of weapons and getting them to pay the duty because weapons are created in the city. and so they actually put an extra tariff on imported weapons, but also they have to make sure that it's going to approved weapon suppliers as well. Everybody has a weapon in the city, but they do have a kind of weapon control going on, largely for the more expensive and magical weapons. Largely, none of the city guard likes to be outclassed. So you can have like the rusty crap that you can find in every place, including Freetown. But the really good stuff, that you have to put that in a place where, well, the less reputable types will be thrown out before they get to make a purchase. And this is everywhere,
do I
and you realize exactly how much you guys are going to blend in. You even see one or two tabaxi. There are certainly a lot of very colourful tieflings about, and there are no genocide at the moment as well. But Farewell does stand out to that level because of his rarity. But yeah, you're very much in a throng as you go towards the warehouse, which is now about 200 foot away.
Well, do I see? I was gonna ask, if any of the Austrian ships were from any ports that were close to my town. Now we know.
No, there's Port Kalo and Port Illidan. So yeah, you know those ports. You've been to those ports, but you also know that they're largely just mercantile ports. There's nothing interesting about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Guess we're walking around, and so I guess we're making our way to the warehouse.
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you could just be browsing. I mean, looking around and looking at everything. Everybody's looking at everything. One of the nice things about being on the port side of it all, rather than sneaking into the back of the warehouse, is that a lot of people here have only recently just got off the ship, so they are looking around. This is a new place. And also, this is a very industrial place. The architecture here is very Regency period. It's different to a lot of places. So you are getting people from Austron, for example, which has very much a kind of Moroccan feel. Those two ports that I mentioned have a very Moroccan feel to it all. So there's a big juxtaposition between the architecture of those places and this. So just even looking at simple buildings does look normal here. It's very much like, I live in very close to Oxford, and I've lived in Oxford, and buildings that I walk past every day, people are looking at with awe. And they're not necessarily the most pretty buildings either, but because they're different, that's something that people are just looking at. So you looking at these buildings, including the warehouse that you're intending to look at, you're going to blend in perfectly.
I wanna
yes, I think
roll.
it's not trapping me.
Yeah. While
Okay.
we're walking through the people selling stuff, Glory automatically gravitates towards all the fabrics and the pretty stones and all of that stuff that comes from the import ships and such. But
Yeah,
she stays pretty close to the group.
sure, okay.
Can I look at how many ships are around and try and sort of gauge like how many ships looks like they're actually coming and they're staying, so that when we come tonight, I'm sort of like, okay, there seems to be about 5 ships, and it looks like they're this big. There might be this many people like sleeping on a ship right near the warehouse, like those sort of things. I want to keep my eyes I want to be aware of that and make note of that mentally.
Okay, good call. So yeah, the warehouse is very close to the artisan quarter of the city, which, if you look on the map, is the blue that's to the left-hand side. It's actually got the mark in there, artisan quarter. It's not quite on it. It's close to it though, and so it's towards the end of this huge run of docks. The 3 docks that you can see there being the ones for the very largest ships. The dock that's in front of the warehouse that you're going to is one of the smaller ones, and you do notice that because that warehouse isn't in use, it's not being used for any cargo ship to dock up against it. So what they've done is that they've made all the fishing boats and some of the day runners, so the ones that kind of appear in the day and then are gone by the night, are moored up there. Now, this probably works well for your smugglers because the dock will probably be completely clear of these minor vessels by the end of the day, because they'll be going off to the various fishing sandbars and things like that to and the various fishing villages, especially the fishing boats, they'll go to outside villages and things. They won't reside within the city because it's too expensive. They'll just come in here, get the money, go back to the village where I'm sure they live a decent life. So this is probably a really good setup for the smugglers, and probably why they chose this warehouse.
What else?
What can I gauge with an investigation roll?
So it depends what your
Right now.
question is. So the investigation roll normally is if you're trying to scrutinize a scene or an object, or if you're searching through something. So you'd have to give me a question, and then I can get you to do an investigation roll based on it. Unfortunately, you can't just roll
Thinking.
straight.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was thinking, what could I do with an investigation roll?
You could use it to scrutinize the building once you get there, which we'll say is now.
Yeah, I wanna do that. I wanna
Okay.
roll investigation for that.
Absolutely.
I think we all want to roll investigation by now.
Or another appropriate skill that
Oh
you
my God,
think
really?
works. So when it comes to things like this, I'll normally give a recommendation of a roll. But if you wanted to roll something else, then I'll give you information based on that. Sometimes it'll be on the mark, sometimes it'll be off the mark. Sometimes you'll discover something that you didn't realize that you were discovering.
I rolled
Go on.
So
a
what can
10.
Okay.
So what can we roll for this? Did you say investigation?
Investigation, or choose something that you think is appropriate. So Rodrigo, on a 10, you start looking at the building. You notice that the building is just a set of formidable walls, so that somebody can't just go up and kind of chip out a few bricks and then take some of the stuff from the side. So you think it's a double thick wall, and there are no windows. It is literally just meant for storing things. There's quite a strong roof on top. It's tiled, and the tiles are kind of a fired clay, not quite a terracotta, but they're kind of what is considered to be called slag clay. So they are not very decorative, but you can't really see them that much from here. The general outlook is of a kind of dark grey to black roof. Some people might be able to get in there by lifting the tiles off, as long as they don't end up breaking the tiles and causing a cascade and falling off the roof themselves.
Can I see if anybody's sort of like an building, or is sort of like just managing it? Obviously, there'll be nobody coming in and out of it because of the time of day, but I from my limited exposure to sort of say, not necessarily the criminals, but the less noble of people, is that they tend to like to keep hold of their stuff and their shit.
So what you're looking for is there a lookout? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a straight perception check.
By the way, for my general investigation roll thing, I got a 20. So
You got sorry, you cut out 20.
21.
21. Okay, you get a little bit more than Rodrigo. I'll get to you in a second, Nick. And that is that the roof is well maintained, even though this thing has been considered a little dilapidated. The roof is well maintained. The two double doors that are in front of the warehouse that the goods are supposed to go in and out of, they're quite tall, and they are slightly narrow, though. So you think it's probably that they're normally put in regular size crates, that large items can't go in here, and they'll just bring up the crates one by one. By the looks of it, the thick walls, the smaller size, because it is one of the smaller warehouses, you have a feeling that this was made as a bit of a lockbox, and made specifically for more valuable items. So when this was in use, its original design is to have valuable items that are ready to be put onto the ships, but no large items. You wouldn't be able to put kind of, say, for example, timber or large grain supplies or anything like that in there. It would normally be prepackaged stuff. Maybe this is some sort of postal or courier type storage. as a result, you know those front doors are going to be strong. If you're thinking of just walking up and kind of Hollywood kicking the doors open, you're probably going to end up busting your foot before kicking these doors in. And you can probably expect, being that you're a rogue, that the lock will probably be quite formidable as well.
Yeah. I relay this information.
Okay.
To everybody else.
Going to Nick. Nick, what was your perception roll?
21.
21.
Hey!
Yeah, okay. Let's.
I rolled
I
a
get-
19 perception roll too.
Okay, good stuff.
I get a +8 on my perception, and that really helps with my natural 13.
I rolled a 17 for my investigation. Like,
Plus
Right.
8 on perception. Bloody
Yeah.
hell.
I have expertise in perception.
Nice.
Oh wow.
Right, so both Farewell and who rolled the other perception check?
Me.
Okay, so Glory, yep.
Right, back
So
with
both Farewell and Glory scan the local area. There's a lot of people to get through, so it does take both of you to kind of go and look at it. But you do actually both catch the same guy. He's sat on a bollard, smoking as if he's just some off-duty sailor, but he's just not getting it right. You have a feeling, to the most part, that he's not actually trying. He's just looking like one of these rough dockhand guys where if anybody does ask him why he's there, he'll probably just give them a string of expletives and threaten them until they go away. And yeah, he's absolutely just looking at the building and only seems to be interested in anybody who is getting too close to it or maybe trying for the door. There is at one point an old lady who goes up. She's got like a basket full of produce. The produce is starting to fall out of the basket. It's one of these kind of over the forearm baskets, and she puts it down on the step in front of the warehouse. And he kind of just looks suddenly a little bit more interested. She rearranges the goods, picks it up, and walks away again. And he just goes back to lighting up another roll-up cigarette and just carries on smoking.
I as cautiously as I can, just draw everyone's attention to him, and just sort of let them know that that's the lookout. And would I have seen if he had anything that would sort of distinguish him as perhaps a member of a certain group or anything like that, or is he really just going for generic thug?
He seems to have he has a very typical hobnail boots, dark trousers that are dusted with dirt. He has a kind of shirt on, not white. It seems to be like a really dark and scuffed up green. And he has a waistcoat on as well, which is kind of a workman's waistcoat. And that's just like a dark color as well. So he's wearing mostly dark colors. And you got a 21 on your perception, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. In that case, I'm going to give to you that they're oddly fitting. That's not normally a big deal in Freetown, where people get a lot of hand-me-downs and just basically wear what they can get. But this guy seems to be smoking with some frequency this tobacco. And normally somebody who can afford to do a nice juicy roll-up like that and be sucking on it as if he's about to roll another one in a minute would normally have money to have slightly more hard-wearing clothes. You normally try to look after yourself in terms of your boots and your clothes and all the rest of it. This seems really oddly fitting. You pretty much know that if he was to try to do any decent day's work in those clothes, again, this is your Freetown background speaking, if he was trying to do any work in those clothes, he would be chafing and blistered by the end of it. So yeah, you're there kind of going, yeah, there's no faction symbols or anything like that. But yeah, he just doesn't look right.
Cool. I'm just gonna every now and again just make sure he's there and that he hasn't really noticed us. whilst sort of continue to go around with the guys.
Righto. Just to warn everybody, we have a few minutes left until 11 o'clock, where I'll stop the session. And what we'll just do quickly before that is round up whatever other information you want about this area, and then we'll go into the operation, the mission, next session. So, is there any other kind of information you would like to gain from this? To give you a bit of help here, there are streets either side of the warehouse itself. Going, they're quite wide streets going on to other warehouses that are behind. So the warehouses are staggered. So any warehouses that can't be directly onto the dock, there's normally a wide road either side of those warehouses that are, so that they go to other warehouses behind. It's maximizing on space and giving as many people as an opportunity to benefit from this industry as possible. So you can go down there if you wish.
Did we? I would like to establish, if we haven't already, and I may have missed someone else doing this, how many doors, like how many entrances and exits this warehouse seems to have, unless I already know this.
Yeah, you absolutely
just
already know
one,
this. Yeah, it's just one. Yeah, so
Yeah, just
At
one was a
the
really heavy door.
front,
yeah, it's at the
leading
front.
onto
Yeah,
the docks.
exactly. Yeah, so you know this already, Kora. I did describe this as a bit of a lockbox type warehouse, but there's certainly only one entrance. And looking at the walls, you know that there are these double thick walls with normally large stones put in between. You'd be making a lot of noise if you wanted to just kind of rip a hole in the wall to get hold of any of the goods that are in between. Not that that was your kind of gig anyway. That's normally more brutal and less classy than your kind of operation.
Right.
But yeah, this is a secure place. Normally, if you would try to get into here, Kora, you would normally try to jump from rooftop to rooftop and get in through the tiles, which I mentioned before. But there's only one door, and it's well lit at the front of the warehouse, looking straight onto the dock. And the promenade in particular normally has people there, even at night time.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if we could investigate the alleyways around the place to see if there's anything of notice.
Sure. I'm not going to get you to roll. You walk around it. The building is featureless, having this very formidable wall that goes up. Let's see, it's 25 foot high before it gets to the roof, and then the roof steeples up another 10 foot on top of that. And you walk all the way around, and as you do so, Kora, if she so wishes, can point out the little alleyway we talked about before, the little kind of two warehouses pressed too close to each other, and also the set of
be
stairs.
pointing out all of those things that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
The trapdoor, the path, the split between the two warehouses, like any of those things that I knew about, I would make sure they're aware about.
Sure.
I would, Kora. You'll forgive me if I got this wrong, but I'm sure Miss Storm said the sewers to move their smuggled goods in and around.
True. That's true. She did.
Do you know where we could get into the sewers? Maybe see if we could get in that way. Because if there's only one door in, they've got to get out somehow.
Yeah. Well, I do know, right? I must know where the sewers are. Yeah.
Wherever possible, you try to use them. Some of them are barred off because obviously going through the city in the sewers is a little bit of a trope. You're not the first people to have done it. In some of areas of the city, they have heavy grates that can be and have been destroyed in the past. But then every now and again, you do have civic workers that go down there, restore the grates, and sometimes they'll put like little kind of alarm spells that, again, Magi Domestica, so that if anybody does tamper with them, some poor unfortunate guard has to go down there and find out what's going on. In this area, you know that the area itself has heavy grates between the warehouses and the rest of the city. Give me an intelligence check, and I'll give you proficiency based on your background. And that's to Kate.
Just a general intelligence
Intelligence with
And
proficiency.
then
with. Oh, I see what you mean. You mean just add my proficiency bonus to my because my intelligence is 0.
Yeah.
I
So
rolled a 14.
okay, yeah,
but
14. That's fine.
16.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's 16.
16.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
if I'm adding the +2.
you are. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. No, that's great. So yeah, 16. That actually gets you past the DC 15. You kind of go, okay, if they're coming from the sea, then that must be one of the spill grates that's underneath these docks. And you basically start looking at the piers, and you know that there's spill grates where the normally rainwater goes out of the a different set of sewers. Obviously, not the sewers, but these are just storm drains. So it must be when they referred to sewers, they must be referring to a storm drain that goes from under the warehouse into the dockside here. You could pretty much just look over the edge of the dock and see if there's one there.
I will definitely take a look in as unsuspicious a way as possible.
Don't be suspicious.
Well, there's
Don't be suspicious.
I'll look like I drop something, and I just bend down to try and pick it up, but I'm looking.
sure. You do that, and yes, you glance over, and there does seem to be evidence of a grate there. I'd like you to just yeah.
Roll for initiative.
No,
Deception? Would it be a deception or a stealth roll?
I'll allow
Simon.
I'll allow deception or stealth, as Corinne says. I'll allow deception or stealth from Kora.
Wish I'd rolled better, right? So, okay, let's go for deception because it's good. 11.
Okay,
I rolled a 6.
that beats my 10. That's fine. So
Oh wow!
Oh, wow.
so you go to pick the thing up, and you realize that that's only going to give you a momentary bending down and then standing back up again. Bending down, then looking over the side isn't really going to do it. But it's okay. I've already got something for you because you did beat them. So as you're doing that, you do see that a little gnomish girl goes, "Hey, look! That's a ray, isn't it? That flatfish there. That's a ray." And you kind of just take that moment and go, "Yep, I'll take that." And you look over the side as well, pretending to look at the ray, but you actually are looking at the grate. You are looked at directly by the lookout, but because of the setup that the little girl gave you, and the fact that you seem to have just like nailed it just about, you can't. It was just that split second thing of going, "Yep, I'll take it. I'll take it." You look over the side as well, just long enough to go, "Yep, that's a ray, and that's a grate." And then you look back again, and he's not interested. He's gone back to looking at the door.
Okay. Right. Well,
Give me a perception check, actually, for that momentary glance.
a perception check.
Yeah. Actually, it would be investigation.
Okay.
Investigation or perception? Or
15.
No, I'll go with investigation. So 15. Yep. Once again, you've hit the DC on the nose. The grate seems to be heavily damaged, as if a ship has bashed into it at some point, and they haven't got around to repairing it.
And I would have no idea where that grate would head, right? I've never been in this part of the sewer or anything.
Yeah, you haven't been in this particular thing, but you can assume that a smuggler coming in from the sea with some sort of packages, you'd lay money that this is how they do it.
Okay. What I would like to try and do is what am I trying to do?
That is the greatest question.
Well, basically, I want to find somewhere close by where I could just sit down. Maybe just sit on the edge of the pier. If I've just looked down at the ray, maybe I can sit down as if I'm like gonna look into the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to cast Find Familiar and send them into the tunnel.
Okay.
And
From this
Ooh.
distance, you should be able
Nice.
to just get your familiar to just pop just inside the grate. What is your
Yeah.
familiar?
well, at the moment, okay. Well, at the moment, I mean, can I just check? Can I cast Find Familiar? I can cast it at will, right? But can I cast it as anything at will, or do I have to do the whole components thing if I want to change the?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll
the
explain the
look?
Find Familiar spell very quickly. So the Find
I
Familiar
think it
spell.
might work.
Yeah, I'll
Does
explain
it
it.
work differently for the chain warlock?
It does. I'm about to explain that.
Does it?
So the way that Find Familiar works, the regular Find Familiar, is that you cast it once to literally get your familiar from the ether. Once your familiar has been created, it appears in the form that you intended it for it to be, or in your case, the first time your familiar appeared was when you became a warlock. In fact, when you finished the process of becoming a warlock, not to give much away, your familiar was just sat on an object nearby. So you have always had this familiar, and you've never actually had to cast the spell, but your familiar has taught you a ritual, and it can be cast as a ritual over 10 minutes, well, 11 minutes, or it can be cast regularly, I think, for a minute, and it will allow you
It says
to restore your familiar if your familiar ever dies. Okay, so your familiar can't really die conventionally because it's Fey in nature. It just goes back to the Feywild, Arcadia, the Land of Dreams, and all you need to do is call it back out of Arcadia, and it will just appear next to you. Now, your familiar
Okay.
has a particular Fey form, an exotic form, because you are a Pact of the Chain warlock. That's a special form that it is. That is its real form. However, you
Right.
can recast this spell at any time. It normally requires 10 gold pieces worth of incense in order to do it. Okay, and that is expended as well. So you actually have to go off, spend the money, and then use the incense. And you can get your familiar to shapeshift into a number of tiny small animals that will change its various abilities. Or you can return it to the exotic Fey ability, the exotic Fey form that it has. Okay, so for example, if your familiar was a fairy, it can take fairy form or some of the animal forms that's listed in the Find Familiar spell. Some familiars do have the ability to turn into certain animals themselves. Like, for example, if you were a fiend, an infernal warlock, imps have the ability to turn into those creatures anyway, and you can just ask them to do it. Depending on what your familiar is, they might have those forms, or they might have other abilities like being able to teleport short distances, turn invisible, whatever. So, what is the Fey
I was
form?
really hoping we could wait 1 week so I could figure it out.
Okay,
Well,
I'm gonna
aren't we about to stop anyway?
I'm
I
gonna
was
throw
gonna
you a
say
have a
lifeline.
cliffhanger.
I'm going to throw you a lifeline, okay? Your Fae recently, in order to walk around the streets with you unnoticed, has
Well,
taken
I was planning, just so you know, I was planning that I don't actually have the familiar out and about most of the time. It's only Farewell knows about it,
Yeah.
but it isn't something that just wanders around with me.
So is
It's
it like in
kind of the more secret thing.
the pocket dimension? Because you can put them in the pocket dimension
Yeah,
and like put them
basically
up.
they're in the pocket dimension a lot.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
don't
only
need to
when
cast
I
the
need
spell.
them.
Okay, so
Uh,
Familiar, go! I choose you.
okay, so for your familiar to go into the pocket dimension and back doesn't require you to cast the spell. It's just an ability that you gain when you
Yeah.
have cast Find Familiar. It's then an ability that you have between you and your familiar. As you also have the ability to see through your familiar's eyes up to a certain length, and also you can telepathically communicate with it up to, I think it's about 60 foot or something like that. So what I'm going to throw you a lifeline. Recently, your familiar has chosen to take the form of a scraggy black cat.
Okay.
And what you do is you look over the side. Although you don't even have to look over the side, you know where the grate is now, and you just mentally will your familiar to manifest in that
Poor
grate.
cat.
Okay.
Cats hate water. I was
And
thinking maybe a rat, but nope. I can't be bothered
this
to try and change the spell. So sorry, cat. Boom.
yeah.
Throw him into the water.
Thankfully, your Fae isn't
I
actually a
do
cat; it's
have
just wearing a cat's
incense
body.
Pardon?
I do have incense on me.
It'd take like an hour, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I
as Matt
mean,
Mercer pointed out, 10 gold pieces worth of incense is like a bushel under your arm. So you pretty much just make this big kind of smoky circle, and then your familiar appears in this circle. But yeah, in this particular case, yeah, it's still the same Fey creature. It's just in a cat's skin, yeah, cat form. So it doesn't give a damn about the water. It can just disappear into the pocket dimension and come back again. It'll be perfectly dry. So it happily just
Yeah.
ends up trudging down the sewer. What are you going to ask? Well, what are you asking it?
well, just before I do that, I'm gonna kind of beckon Farewell over. Before this happens, hold on. How far away from people am I? How far away from that lookout am I?
Okay,
Like,
you are about 20 foot away from the lookout. There are other people at the dock by you, but they're all ignoring you. They're going about their own business. There's still the little gnome girl who's looking over the side with a small Kalashtar boy. So he's got bronze skin, black hair, and 2 gold orbs for eyes. Very beautiful race. And they're just looking at the fish and the water. They seem to be quite well to do. Maybe they're children of a traveling group or something like that. And yeah,
okay,
they're
are
not
they
paying attention
within
to you.
earshot?
As long as you speak in hushed tones. And bear in mind, there's a lot of people who will be talking about things like business deals and things like that. Most people know to mind their own business if they see you kind of huddled together. So yeah,
Okay.
if you beckon Farewell over, you're all right. You're all right.
I'm gonna beckon Farewell over to sit down next to me with a kind of look that says I'm doing the thing, as if we've done this before, so that he sits next to me and I put my sort of hand on his knee kind of thing, and I sort of indicate for him to grab his book out, and basically then I send the cat in. And
Okay, are you
go looking
taking?
through their eyes?
You're looking through their eyes?
Yeah.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
suddenly go.
So I
Go on, Nick.
sorry, Farewell does as he's told without question. He just sort of sits down, gets his book out, and just waits. And he's gonna just dutifully copy down anything he's told.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and look before I go into the cat. I'm gonna try and look as if I'm just looking into the water, sort of thing. You know, I'm just gonna sort of look down as if I'm like, oh, look at the water, isn't this lovely? And then
That's just
and
as
then
well
start
because you've just become blind and deaf as you
Yeah.
completely give your senses over to using the senses of your familiar. So you're
Yeah.
just staring glassy-eyed into the water, and you just look deep in thought. You know, looking at the water is a quite a peaceful thing. Some people do it, and you are stood next to a water genocide, so some people might be forgiven for thinking that water's kind of a holy thing for you, and
That's true.
you look into the small waves, the small rivulets as they beat against the dock walls, and suddenly you're in a very dark space. Thankfully, your cat has pretty decent dim light vision, and you're watching it pad through what is quite a slimy, um, a kind of sea moss covered storm drain. And yeah, it's got a tiny bit of water that's just sitting in it. But you have a feeling that when some of the really impressive sea storms come in, this thing's kind of constantly going and full of water. The one thing that you have noticed straight off the bat is the scratch marks across the floor, where this kind of slimy green algae stroke moss is present across the whole thing. Someone has been dragging what you'd think is probably traveling chests. So not large crates, but roughly the size of a coffee table, each one, along. And it's clear they've been picked up and put down, and there's kind of scuff marks that you just wouldn't expect here. It's the type of thing that you normally try to avoid if you're going through the sewers. This is why I'm giving you this without a roll. And pad, and it gets to the point where there's a kind of a bilge. So this is a kind of a cistern.
Sorry, what? You cut out when you said it.
It's a bilge, a cistern. And what this is just a collection of water where a lot of the other storm drains come into it. So it itself is a bit of a natural basin. And there's, strangely, a small, very, very small boat there. And it's one of these small inspection craft that you can use to push your way through the sewers, even if they're full of water, to inspect the walls, to make sure that nothing's going to cave in. You've seen them before, just kind of generally left around in the sewers, where the civic workers that are there will kind of use it to get through some of the larger areas in the city. So you get to that part there, you see the little inspection craft, and you also see a ladder going up, and you've gauged the distance, you know roughly where your familiar is, you've got that kind of thread of consciousness between you and your familiar, and you see the ladder going up into the warehouse. I'm going to end it there. Okay, we've gone a little bit over, but that's fine. We started a little bit late anyway, and I wanted roughly a 3-hour recording, which is what I've got. So
just so you know, I obviously am recounting this very quietly, or as quietly as I can perceptively be, when I'm unconscious, essentially, to Farewell, to try and get him to write it down or remember.
You could just be muttering under your breath, and he's listening carefully. That tends to be the thing, and anybody who's watching Critical Role at the moment knows that this is something that Caleb does very often. So he's just sat there just talking about what he's seeing, whilst he himself has no idea. And there's generally a kind of an arrangement that's made where if something dangerous is about to happen, normally the person who's with them kind of pokes them in the ribs or shakes their arm or something like that, or squeezes their hand. And so you describe all of this, and you know without a shadow of a doubt how they're getting into this warehouse.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for playing, and we will continue with this next week. And
nice. Yes.
That was my notes, by the way, that's page 3
Yay.
that I've been furiously scribbling down.
Brilliant.
So
I've been typing stuff into a Word doc to try and help. I must take notes. I'm so bad at taking notes in my home games, so this time
I just don't. I
am bad at taking notes. I am really bad at taking notes.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording there.
Honestly, been working on a drawing of Glory while we played.
Nice.
I'm going to stop the recording.
That's important.
I'm going to stop the recording there, guys. So for everybody who's watching, thank you very much for coming. We're going to wrap up a few things before we call it a night. And next week we will have a session where they finally get into the warehouse and hopefully take on the smugglers. Until that, good night, everyone.